Locke Key is a tale of murder, familial relationships, and the pursuit of magical keys that leads the Locke family down a rabbit hole revealing their lineage's dark past. So what will happen when the past haunts the one who has forgotten everything? What will happen when decades-old monsters echo through the present? You may have watched the TV show, but you, the comic book, is in a whole other league. I'm glad you found us. Let's begin. Locke Key Volume 1. Welcome to Lovecraft Issue Number 1, How It Started. Our story begins in Mendocino Valley, at the abode of the Locke family, where two killers named Sam Lesser and Grubb are paying them a visit to kill Rendell Locke the father. He, however, is busy painting, and so the door is answered by his wife Nina Locke. Sam happens to be one of Rendell's students, which is why she ends up trusting them both and fails to notice the body of Sam's uncle in the back of their pickup truck, as well as the gun and axe they hide behind their bodies. We then get introduced to the children of the Locke family, Tyler, Kinsey, and Bodie Locke. Tyler is the oldest, and Bodie is the youngest. Tyler is currently brooding by the nearby lake because his summer has been spoiled by his father, who dragged them to the countryside in the middle of nowhere. They are here to fix their family home and spend some time together, but Tyler thinks his father is using them all for free labour. He envies Rod Fess, his friend, and Orrin, his cousin, for they are living better lives than he is. Rod is down in Baja living the best life on the beach, while Orrin is up in Hollywood, attending celebrity parties every day and enjoying the pleasures of having a PS3. Kinsey chides him and tries to get him to stop brooding, but this is when we see Sam and Grubb ambush their father, Rendell, and the scene cuts to his funeral instantly. Tyler is devastated again, but this time it's because his father's dead. His cousins try to console him, try to tell him stories about Baja and celebrities, but all of that doesn't matter to Tyler anymore. Only his uncle, Duncan Locke, is able to comfort him, and while they talk, Tyler remembers the time he was snooping in on his parents. For some reason, his father had said that their family house had chosen Duncan instead of him, whatever that meant. Tyler breaks down, and as he weeps in his uncle's arms, we learn that the family has decided to move into the manor with Duncan. We then see what happened when the kids returned to the house after Sam and Grubb had attacked the family. Bodie is trying to hit the same moth from the first page of the issue with a stick, while Tyler and Kinsey continue to argue. That is, until they hear gunshots upon reaching the front door. Sam has just shot Rendell, and the shock of this discovery has caused Tyler to step into a bunch of paint buckets, which has alerted the killers. Sam goes out with his gun, and while hunting Tyler and the kids like a wolf, pretends that he doesn't want to hurt them. For a moment, we're led to believe that Tyler forgot that his feet are tracking paint, which will make it easy for Sam to find and kill them, but we then realise that Tyler has sacrificed himself. His sister and little brother are on top of the roof, while Tyler is using this opportunity to draw Sam away from them by luring him into the basement. The scene cuts to the present again, and right now, Uncle Duncan is driving Tyler to their family home Key House in Lovecraft, Massachusetts. Tyler hasn't been speaking a lot since the death, and the idea that the entire town knows about their fate doesn't seem entertaining to him either. We then get a glimpse of the manor and realise that it is huge and has acres of land surrounding it. The Lockes are quite rich, and though this would have made Tyler happy once, he just wants to be left alone right now. Upon reaching the mansion, the Lockes get out of their cars, and we see Bodie bolt straight into the mansion to explore every room he can find. Nina Locke asks her children to do the same because the overnight drive has everyone exhausted. They can take care of unpacking and other formalities once they have stretched their legs. This is when we switch back to the past and see what happened in the basement. Sam was trying his best to stalk Tyler, but Tyler was waiting for him and ambushed him as soon as he was vulnerable. Tyler used a brick to smash Sam's face in, and through sheer luck managed to dodge all the bullets that were fired at him. Once he had beaten Sam to a pulp, Tyler made his way into the house through the trapdoor, only to find that his father's body partially blocked it. Grubb had ambushed him, and though Tyler had tried to shoot him using Sam's gun, Grubb was smarter. He was counting the gunshots and knew that the gun was empty. However, this is when his mother came to his rescue and slashed Grubb with his own axe directly in the head. She had then ordered Tyler to take care of his siblings, and the moment of seeing his dad's body in the basement, the moment of him seeing his dad's photo at the funeral, and what he sees now in the reflection of the water still haunts him. We then see Kinsey approach him again. This time, however, she wants to know how he is doing, wants to know how he holds himself together, for she cries every opportunity she gets. Tyler sighs and tells his sister that he manages to hold it together by blaming himself, and we see that when he looks at his reflection, Tyler sees himself covered in blood while holding Sam's gun. They then decide to go check in on Bodhi because leaving the youngin unattended for this long is never a good idea. And they're right, because Bodhi right now is trying to reach for a sword while standing on a stack of old books. As he reaches out, the books give away, but he somehow manages to avoid the falling sword. Next, he finds a hidden key at the top of a closet. The key has a skull on it, and when Bode uses it to unlock a door with the same skull, he realizes it simply leads out into the grounds. But when he walks out, his spirit continues, but his body gets left behind. Panicking, Bodhi rushes back to his body, and we see the same moth lingering around him again. When the moth lands on his face, Bode comes back to life and, scared for his life, shuts the door. We then see Sam at a juvenile detention facility, staring into the sink, talking to a man named Dodge. Dodge seems to be using Sam for his own gains, but for now he promises the teenager an escape from the detention center very soon. The Only Bad Ending. Locke Key also has an Only Bad edition with alternate endings for each issue. In the Only Bad Ending for issue 1 of Welcome to Lovecraft, Bodhi gets the sword from the mantle, tries to use the key, but instead trips. He falls on the sword and ends up bisecting his body, which his horrified family later discovers. Locke Key, Volume 1, Welcome to Lovecraft, Issue Number 2. How it's going. The issue starts by showing us a comic Bodhi made for his school, a comic that depicts his dad being shot and him using the key to become a ghost to try and find his dad's ghost. His homeroom teacher is concerned about the comic and thus has asked Nina to meet her. Nina is currently reading the comic while having wine with Duncan. She thanks him for all his help and then tells him about Bodhi's supposed fantasy of becoming a ghost. Duncan remembers that he and Rendell would play a game like that, and Nina explains Bode's story by thinking that Rendell must have told him about the game. She says that Bode lives in a fantasy world of his own, but this is when we see Ghost Bodhi spying on her. We learn that Bodhi has been experimenting with the key a lot lately. It was scary at first, seeing his dead body, but now he understands what a ghost is and what a body is. It's a sock without a foot in it. That's how Tyler explained it to him, and now he understands. He spies on his siblings while being a ghost. He spies on Tyler voluntarily. His big brother doesn't play with him anymore, and instead spends most of his time taking hot showers. And so, to save his brother from growing old and wrinkly by being in the water too long, Bodhi gets too close to him, sending shivers down Tyler's spine. He then gets teleported to Kinsey's room. It's a thing that happens when you're a ghost. You get teleported to whoever's thinking about you. And right now, Kinsey is hugging a pillow and crying, remembering the time she and Bodhi were hidden on the roof while their father was being shot. Bode then thinks it would be a good idea to tell his siblings about the key. After all, if they can be ghosts, getting over Dad's death would be easy. But this backfires and they both shun him away. And so disheartened, Bodhi goes magnet fishing in the pond, and this is when his mum visits him. She doesn't chide him for the comic and instead simply asks him not to do it in school because he is scaring the other children and his teacher. When Nina leaves, Bodhi hears a voice coming from the nearby well in the well house, which claims to be his echo talking back. Realizing that this could be another ghost, Bodhi runs away and forces Kinsey and Tyler to check it out with him. Tyler thinks Bodhi's being haunted by his overactive imagination and scares him from talking about such things because it could get him thrown into a psychiatric ward. And though Kinsey tries to take Bodhi's side, Tyler explains to her that the place is covered in dust with only Bodhi's footprints visible. The door is locked, and if in fact there was a woman down there that Bodhi heard, she wouldn't be keeping quiet. She would be screaming for someone to help her. That night, Bodhi has a dream of his dead father telling him a knock-knock joke while a furious dog tries to dig beside them. He wakes up instantly at 3 a.m. and out of desperation decides to visit the woman in the well house as a ghost. She is beautiful, and she explains to Bodhi that she just wants to talk. Ghost Bodhi flies away, but the real Bodhi returns the next day to talk to her. He tells her all about his escapades, and she in turn tells him that there are many more keys and that she is an echo that once belonged to his dad when he was young. She then explains that there are many more doors in the key house that lead to different worlds and realities, and there's also an anywhere key, a key that unlocks any door to a place you want to go to, a place you can clearly imagine in your head. But the anywhere key has been lost for a long time, and his dad probably hid it for a good reason. We then see that the woman has coerced Bodhi into getting her a pair of scissors and a mirror under the pretext that she wants to cut her hair. But in reality, it is revealed that the woman is a horrific monster. When she looks in the mirror, we see a mangled, smiling corpse staring back. And on the next page, it is revealed that the woman is Dodge, because once Bodhi is gone, she contacts Sam and offers him the means to his escape from the detention center. The sink through which he talks to Dodge now contains the same mirror and scissors that Bode gave to the woman. Locke Key Volume 1. Welcome to Lovecraft issue number 3, Kinsey's Turmoil. The comic begins from Kinsey's perspective. She explains how the day her father died changed her, how she became less eccentric, and how she changed her style and hair to fit in at the new school. She hadn't realized it then, but while hiding, she was holding Bodhi tight enough to cause bruises around his neck, and she had also bitten her lower lip till it bled to keep herself and Bodhi from making a sound. She now jumps at the sight of every unfamiliar face, including her own reflections. This is when we visit the detention center, where Sam uses the mirror to spot the warden approaching his cell and then uses the scissors to stab him in the face multiple times. He then opens his cell door, steals the warden's gun, and shoots the man accompanying him. We then switch back to Kinsey and learn that her fondness for track is the only thing keeping her going. In fact, she has gotten better at running now that she has more things to run away from. She beats a fellow teammate Jackie, who congratulates Kinsey for being a worthy opponent. She offers to be Kinsey's friend, offers that they should go for a run together each Saturday morning, but Kinsey refuses, and though Jackie tries again and again politely, Kinsey simply declines the offer and runs away. She knows that if they become friends, Jackie would want to know about her past life before Lovecraft, and that is something that is strictly off limits in her book. We then see that while Kinsey spends her after-school time reading books, Tyler spends it fixing the mansion and taking care of the chores. He's building a cobblestone pathway right now, but every time he picks up a stone, he remembers the day he smashed Sam Lesser's face with a brick. We then see Bodhi demonstrating the ghost key to Kinsey, but she is just annoyed. She thinks he's acting, but when her youngest brother, Bodhi, doesn't get up or breathe, she begins to panic. She is about to believe him and is about to walk through the ghost door. That is when Bodhi comes back to life and tells her that something terrible has happened. A man is telling their mum about it right now, and his name means born at night. Kinsey checks on her mum and discovers that Detective Matuku is here to talk with her. She goes to her room and snoops on the conversation through the vents. The detective is assuring Nina Locke that things are under control. They will catch Sam very soon, and they don't have to worry because Sam doesn't know that they have moved to Lovecraft. However, this is when we catch up with Sam and see that he is already on his way east. He is in the back of a truck and has already reached Wyoming. Nina Locke is drinking daily now, and her children understand why. Kinsey visits her and she informs her daughter of Sam's escape. Nina tells Kinsey about the police officer who will always be posted outside the mansion until Sam's caught, and then shows her the gun she has bought. The gun will always be in the drawer of her bedside table, and Kinsey should use it should the chance ever arise. She has already told Tyler about it. Things are moving too fast, so Kinsey decides to verify what Bodhi said. She asks about the detective's name, and we learn that Matuku indeed means born at night. It was the first thing Nina asked the detective before the news was revealed to her. Kinsey continues to struggle at school. Everyone stares at her, talks about her, and she doesn't like it. However, things change when she passes through a hallway that is being painted. Her coach, Ellie Whedon, watches her puke out of the window, and Kinsey reveals that it is because of the smell of paint. She hates it. The coach offers her water and then some advice. People are going to look and stare at her. That won't change, but Kinsey can always control what they see. She then notices a bracelet on Kinsey's left arm, which has an intricate pattern with a key engraved into it. Kinsey reveals that her father gave this to her a long time ago and then leaves, but this is when Coach Ellie pulls out the yearbook from her time at school. She and Rendell were classmates, and she discovers that he also used to wear the same bracelet to school. Kinsey takes the coach's advice to heart, cuts her hair, changes her style, and then changes her mind about running on Saturdays. She visits Jackie at her home and takes her up on the offer. Locke Key Volume 1. Welcome to Lovecraft issue number 4. Ticking time. Bodhi once again wakes up from a nightmare where his father is missing an eye, and his corpse is trying to tell Bodhi a knock-knock joke. Sam, meanwhile, is hitchhiking with a trucker, and when asked about his parents, he remembers his old life from a few months ago. He was a good student, had gotten over 600s on his SATs, and wanted to go to college. Sadly, his mother was an ungrateful drunk, and his father would beat him regularly. Things began to go south when his anger was unleashed on his bully. Sam chomped down on his bully's arm, and as a result was suspended for 3 weeks. That is when he met Grubb outside counsellor Rendell Locke's office. He was a bad influence, and even claimed that Rendell's wife, Nina, would flash him every time she came to get her car washed at the place he used to work at. The conversation was interrupted when Tyler stormed out of his dad's office. Tyler had told his dad that he had had enough of him, words he regrets in the present day. Tyler is crying in this garden shed when Bodhi comes in and asks Tyler to explain what a knock-knock joke is. Tyler gives Bodhi an example, but the youngin doesn't quite get it. He leaves, and that is when Tyler realizes that he needs to stay strong for Bodhi, to show him that living a normal life where knock-knock jokes exist is still possible. Sam has now reached as far as the truck would go, and this is when we see what happened back then, after Tyler had stormed out and Sam had entered Rendell's office. Rendell was trying to tell Sam that he would be able to help him with financial aid forms for his college entrance, but he wouldn't be able to provide a recommendation letter. Sadly, Sam was distracted the entire time. He was captivated by a painting of the well house on the wall, and that was because he could see Dodge in it. Dodge was asking for help, and before Sam left the office, Dodge pleaded with him to listen to the echoes. Outside, he had talked with a frustrated Tyler. In that moment, Tyler hated his father more than anything, and when Sam said that he wanted to kill his abusive father, Tyler had replied that he should also kill his father as well while he's at it. We then see Sam in the present day. He has murdered the trucker and has taken his cash and belongings to continue his journey east. He boards a bus, but things turn for the worse when a woman with a baby on the bus recognizes him and approaches the driver about it. Sam pulls out his gun, and we flash back to the time he had pulled out the gun on Rendell Locke in his summer home. He had demanded the keys from Rendell. He wanted the key to anywhere and the key to the black door, but Rendell did not know what Sam was talking about. Dodge had told him that the grown-ups usually forget about the keys because that's how Key House maintains its secret, but this is when Rendell had decided to fight back, and this is likely when Sam killed him. As the flashback ends, we see that everyone in the bus has been shot to death, and Sam is continuing to drive the bus while wearing the driver's uniform. Locke Key Volume 1. Welcome to Lovecraft issue number 5. It all comes together. A fisherman tries to light his wet lighter on his boat, unaware that a bus is burning in the background. When his lighter is finally lit, the bus goes up in flames, and this is when Sam points a gun at the fisherman and forces him to ferry him to Lovecraft Island. This is when we see Bodhi telling his knock-knock joke to Dodge in the well house, and Bodhi reveals that he is going to stop visiting Dodge. Bodhi has figured out things enough to know that this entity is not his echo. Bodhi didn't create him, and that he was here before Bodhi arrived at the Key House. Kinsey calls out to Bodhi from the woods and explains that they will have to go back in 30 minutes because it's getting dark, and Dodge uses this opportunity to sneak up on the kid. We then see Sam kill the fisherman as they near the island, while Tyler in the Key House fills his mind with all the violent stories from around the world through the news on TV. Kinsey, meanwhile, talks to the police officer, and we learn that he has grown to like the family and that Kinsey is catching fireflies for Bodhi. But Bodhi is currently being held hostage by Dodge. They talk, and Dodge explains that Rendell went through a lot of trouble to trap Dodge here. He needs the anywhere key to leave the well house, for if he uses the front door, he will fade away. Bodhi explains that he visited him tonight only because he wanted to learn more about his dad. He then asks Dodge about his real identity, and the entity explains that they are the Legion, and just like his dad, tonight Bodhi will do as he is asked. Kinsey, meanwhile, tries to look for her younger brother in the garden, only to then be ambushed by Sam, who beats her unconscious. He then carries her body to the house, and when he hears Duncan and Nina's voices in the wine cellar, he goes in and locks them both inside. At first, Nina and Duncan think that the kids are pranking them, but when no one speaks, Nina hits the door again and again with her cane until it breaks. The sound of the cane breaking forces Tyler to check on his mother and uncle, and this is when Sam reveals himself, holds Tyler at gunpoint, gunpoint and then kicks him through the wooden railing and into the basement. Tyler is finally face to face with his bloodied sister, but Sam doesn't give him a chance to fight back. He explains the situation to Nina behind the locked door and threatens to kill her children. This is when Dodge plays her hand. She tells Bode that Sam is here and he is going to kill his family. Dodge is the only one who can stop Sam, and to do so, she needs to escape, which is why Bode is going to bring her the Anywhere key. If Bode tries to go to the police, Sam would kill his entire family before the police capture him, so it's in Bode's best interest to hurry up and get her the Anywhere key. Bode rushes out of the well house, and this is when Dodge releases the moth that Bode had captured in a bottle. Locke Key Volume 1. Welcome to Lovecraft issue number 6. And so it begins. Sam is now threatening to shoot Tyler and Kinsey if Nina doesn't hand over the Anywhere key and the key to the black door, but the adults don't understand his demands. Frustratingly, Tyler tells them that he is looking for 2 very old keys, one with an Omega symbol on it and the other with a series of connected rings. Nina plays her hand and tells Tyler to lead Sam to her bedroom dresser. That is where the keys are kept. In reality, Nina is giving her son a fighting chance. He should be able to get the gun from her bedside drawer while Sam is distracted. Bode, meanwhile, uses the ghost key and concentrates on the Anywhere key so that his ghost form would automatically be teleported to it. Instead, he is taken to his unconscious sister. Bode tries again, but he is back near his sister, this time closer to the bracelet, and that is when Bode spots the Anywhere key in it. Bode returns to his body and rushes towards the basement while leaving the ghost key behind. He watches Tyler leading Sam towards the bedroom, and once they are gone, he sneaks down into the basement and gets the bracelet from Kinsey. He talks to his mother and reveals that there is no key on the cellar door. He promises to get help and quickly leaves the room. Sam, meanwhile, is searching through the dresser when he spots Tyler reaching for the drawer in the mirror. He quickly catches on and forces Tyler against the front door. Sam then discovers the gun, chuckles, and reveals that the one he was carrying was empty, but Tyler has just helped him by leading him to Nina's gun. Tyler, however, isn't going down without a fight. He escapes while Sam is distracted and reaches the ghost door. He unlocks the door using the key and is about to escape when Sam ambushes him from behind and tries to strangle him to death. Tyler falls through the doorway during this struggle, and this is when his spirit leaves his body. Sam assumes that he has killed Tyler, and this is when Bode approaches the well house and offers Legion the Anywhere key in exchange for his family's life. Legion uses her magic to free the key from the bracelet and then uses it to go to Kinsey's room. There, Legion pulls out another key from around her neck, a key with the symbol of both genders on it. She then walks towards Kinsey's wardrobe, reveals the hidden door in it, and then uses the key. When Legion walks out into the room on the other side, Tyler's room, he has changed into a man, and he steals one of Tyler's hoodies to cover himself up. Tyler, meanwhile, watches his mum panic in ghost form as Sam reveals that he has murdered Tyler. He has dragged Tyler's body into the basement, and as Tyler is panicking in ghost form, he remembers what Bode had told him. You imagine where you want to go. If you want to wake up, you imagine being back in your body. When Tyler tries this, he vanishes and wakes up in his body. Sam has meanwhile forced Kinsey to wake up now that Tyler's dead. He threatens to kill her. She doesn't give him the keys, but this is when Tyler pushes Sam away and the gun stumbles out of his hand. He hits Tyler with a spade, but before he can deal the final blow, a bullet blows a hole in his neck. He holds the wound in his neck and tries to escape, but is shot in the legs again and again. It's Kinsey, and though Sam has escaped, she doesn't stop until the gun is empty. The brothers comfort her, and this is when we see Sam reunite with Dodge. Dodge hugs him, breaks Sam's neck, and then drags his body and throws it out of the ghost door. Police have now swarmed the key house because of the gunshots, but Dodge simply uses the Anywhere key to make his escape. Ellie is woken up in the middle of the night. It's Dodge at her front door, and the two seem to know each other, and this is when it is revealed that Ellie killed her mother with Dodge's help. When the police try to inspect where they found Sam's body, Tyler panics, thinking that they will all turn into ghosts, but they don't, and that's because Dodge stole the ghost key as well. Tyler is confused, and his mother comforts him, and while Duncan walks away with Detective Matuku and Tyler with his mum, we see Sam's ghost lingering there, looking depressed. 2 weeks later, Kinsey and Bode are magnet fishing in the pond, and Kinsey talks with Bode about the keys. He says that the ghost key is gone, but this is too unnerving and eerie for Kinsey. First her younger brother, then Sam. Surely this was just make-believe, but Bode doesn't say anything. Tyler then approaches his siblings and reveals that he has brought a friend along. It's Legion, aka Dodge, but he is now going by a new name, Zach. He is pretending to be a student at their school, under the pretext that he has joined late. He reveals that he is living with Coach Ellie and Kinsey doesn't seem to mind him. However, Bodhi can't help but shake because of the eerie feeling he gets from Zach. The kid keeps staring at Zach until Tyler shakes him and asks him to say hello to their new friend. The three of them decide to go to the beach and Bodhi says that he will catch up with them in a moment. This is when Bodhi pulls up the weight at the end of his fishing line and it turns out to be another key. This one has a bisected human head at the end. Locke Key Volume 2 Head Games Issue Number 1 Intermission. This story follows the perspective of Professor Joe Ridgway, formerly a young man in love with historical literature, and his now deceased wife, Callie Ridgway. He's dreaming of the day she jumped into the nearby pond to get him out of his notes and had promised to drown unless he rescued her. In this dream, when Joe jumps in the water, he can't find Callie anywhere, and thus he wakes up as an old man from his dream in the present day. He lives in Lovecraft and is a professor at Tyler and Kinsey's school. But the next day, when he spots Zach with Tyler, something triggers in him, a memory, because a similar-looking young man used to follow Rendell around the school. His name was Luke, and surprisingly, Zach turns around when Joe calls him Luke. Joe digs deeper, and something about Zach's records tells him that they have been forged, and it sends shivers down his spine when he learns that he is staying with Ellie because though a couple back then, Luke was quite abusive. And this is when Zach approaches Coach Ellie on the street and tells her that Professor Ridgway is onto them. At home, we see that she still calls him Luke, and he is currently hovering above the dining table using his magic and reading On Evil by Thomas Aquinas. He is bleeding from his nose because using magic is harder in the real world than in the well house. He chides her, calls her ugly, and tells her to stop calling him Luke. We then see that Ellie has a son, Rufus, who is on the spectrum. Zach begins talking about taking Joe Ridgway's life, thinking Rufus doesn't understand. Rufus only talks through his toys, does their voices, and pretends to be in the army with them. But once the door is closed, we see that Rufus is onto Zach, for in his lore from the TV program, according to him, Zach can't be trusted. He's a replicant. We then see Joe reminiscing about his wife as he tries to gather older records of Luke Caravaggio. He stares at the Macbeth photograph, the play that Luke and his friends had enacted when they were in school, and remembers how Luke and most girls and boys from his troupe disappeared. Something awful happened to them, something Joe terms as the worst day in the school's history. According to him, Rendell was never the same after that day. We then see a glimpse into Joe's memory as he reminisces that the play was almost like magic, simply unreal. He knows he shouldn't, but while remembering every moment he and his wife spent around the school, Joe decides to corroborate Zach's papers by calling his old school. He gives them a fake name, but this is when we see Zach already stalking him from the other side of the door, because it turns out all the information provided to the admissions office is completely fake. He wants to contact the dean right away, but then for Ellie's sake, he decides to wait till tomorrow so that she has a chance to explain herself. He misses his wife again, for she would have been in his strength at such a moment, and after a few minutes staring at her picture, Professor Ridgway finally heads home. Zach watches him leave and then uses the anywhere key to go back home. He orders Ellie to stay away from Joe, to not answer his calls while he goes and takes care of him. All of this is said in front of Rufus, and once done, Zach uses the key to go to the evidence room at the police station. Meanwhile, Joe gets home and relaxes with a drink in his warm bath, but that is when Zach shows up and points a gun at him. The two of them talk calmly, and Zach confesses that he is indeed Luke, and that he doesn't want to kill the professor, which is why he is offering him pills. He explains that what happened to the kids back then was a tragedy, but it needed to be done, and he is now back here to finish something that he started long ago. He implores the professor to take the pill again, but this is when Joe fights back and smashes his whiskey glass on Zach's head. Zach fires, and as the professor bleeds out underwater, he imagines reuniting with his wife in the pond once again. Locke Key Volume 2 Head Games Issue Number 2 Clean Up. Zach uses the Anywhere key to visit Ellie in her bedroom. Then he commands her to help him send an email from the professor's computer because he isn't familiar with modern technology. Back at the key house, Bodhi is trying the new key he found on every possible door in the house with no luck. The police, meanwhile, have reached the professor's house, and we learn that Zach sent a mass email to all of the professor's contacts trying to paint the murder as suicide. Detective Matuku decides to play along and publicly declare this a suicide so as not to tip off the killer, but he knows someone killed the professor. For if this were a suicide, he would have shot himself in the head or mouth, not in the torso. And then they find their next clue, a piece of glass from the whiskey mug that the professor smashed on Zach's head with Zach's blood still on it. Kinsey is taking the professor's death quite hard. They weren't close, but the fact that people around her keep dying has him in shambles. As she runs away, we see that she has become quite popular with the boys. They see her as a badass for killing Sam Lesser. She sits on the beach, and this is when Zach and Tyler arrive with ice creams to comfort her. Kinsey pours her heart out and says that she is one more death away from being completely insane. Bodhi, meanwhile, continues to test all the doors he can find in the key house, and as he passes by an old grandfather's clock, we see that there's another key on top of it, a key with an hourglass at its other end. Tyler and Zach continue to spend time on the beach, and we learn that Tyler is quite behind in his studies. The teachers, however, are understanding, but the students look at him with pity, and he hates that. Zach convinces him to surf, and while he is away to rent surfboards for them, Tyler decides to try on a nearby sports bike and live out his fantasies. This is when a woman in a helmet approaches, and Tyler quickly gets off the bike and apologizes. She lifts the helmet, and it's someone Tyler knows from his ethics class. Once she is gone, we see that Tyler seems to like her, but this is when another student from his school, Brinker Martin, says that he should stay away from her. That is Jordan Gates. And in Brinker's words, Jordan is a psycho-rich bitch who likes to start fires. He then reveals his own agenda. He is here to recruit Tyler for the hockey team. Even though he isn't good, they need someone who can push people around easily. Back at the key house, we see that it's time for Duncan to leave them all behind and return to his normal life in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Nina doesn't want him to go away, but she knows it would be wrong to ask him to stay for a few more weeks. Duncan bids Nina goodbye and encounters Bodhi at the front door trying to use the key on it. He hugs the little kid and tells him to continue being good like he always has been. He then sits with Kinsey next, hears her feelings out, and the last thing Kinsey says to him is that she wishes that she could forget how to cry. He consoles her, and as Duncan is driving out of the mansion, he encounters Tyler and Zach. They have a decent meeting, but Zach gives Duncan the heebie-jeebies. He keeps a close eye on him while driving away because he swears that he has seen that kid somewhere before. Zach takes an early leave from Tyler, and once he has gone inside, he quickly uses the nearby door to make his way back to Ellie. They have another problem on their hands. He knows that Duncan recognized him and is baffled how that could happen because he was 8 years old the last time they met. Bodhi, meanwhile, has forced his brother and sister into a room to show them something cool. He has finally discovered what the key does. He raises it, and magically a keyhole appears at the back of his neck. Bodhi inserts the key and turns it. Voila! The next thing you know, the top of Bode's head has vanished. Locke Key Volume 2, Head Games, Issue Number 3, Messing with Your Head. Tyler recoils in horror while Kinsey is in utter shock. He struggles to breathe while she simply staggers to a stop. This is when Nina, their mother, walks in to check on them and all the fuss, but finds nothing out of place. She seems to completely ignore the fact that the top of her youngest kid's head is missing. She walks away and finds nothing wrong with this entire ordeal, but Kinsey and Tyler run after her to check in on her. However, Nina seems to be losing it. She can't cook, she can't provide, and is only good for drinking all day. Realizing that what Sam Lesser said about adults forgetting and not seeing magic might actually be true, they return to Bodhi and begin to panic. But slowly they start figuring out that Bodhi might actually be right about this, and Tyler confesses about having accidentally used the ghost key while Sam was attacking him. This is when Bodhi screams at them to look inside his head, and when they do, they see a colourful secret world of memories. Dinosaurs, robots, his mother, Halloween with his siblings, park rides with his dad, the well house, and of course, the Anywhere key bracelet in the middle of it all. Suddenly, Bodhi appears between Kinsey and Tyler while they stare into his head, which freaks them out. They begin to panic again, but this is when their little brother scolds them and says that they can use this to their advantage. They can fight back using the keys. He then shows that you can put things in your head while it's open. Bodhi grabs a cookbook and shoves it inside, and once it has completely vanished, he is able to correctly recite every recipe in it. This is when Kinsey gets the idea of checking out what the well house woman looks like. She reaches inside Bodhi's head and pulls it out, only to find a more menacing and monstrous version of the woman. She theorizes that memories get embellished in the head, which is confirmed when she pulls out Bodhi's memory of their neighbor. They knew their neighbor was ugly and rude, but not as ugly or monstrous as Bodhi remembers her to be. They then have Bodhi close his head and then take the key from him. Bodhi fights back. It's his key, and he isn't giving it away this time, but Tyler tells him that they are simply borrowing it for tonight. He tells his brother to be quiet and not talk about keys around their mother, and this is when Bodhi helps his mother out with his current recipe by telling her to use a condiment 1 teaspoon after the water is boiling. He pronounces the short form of tablespoon as is, and it seems not everything you put inside your head using the key can be entirely useful. Tyler and Kinsey meet up on the roof that night to discuss what discovering the key means. It means there are other keys. The woman in the well house was real, and the other was the key with the omega symbol on it. The woman already has the first key, and it's only a matter of time before she returns for the second one. They know they can't involve their mother, partly due to her mental state, and partly because she's an adult and she won't believe in any of this, even if they tried. They then remember that their dad always told them that the key house was the safest place for them if anything ever happened to him, and Tyler figures it was because of the keys. The keys give them a fighting chance. Tyler then decides to use the key on himself. He opens his head and has Kinsey cram his school books into it. She does so, but also gets a peek into his dark mind. Tyler's mind is filled with nightmares and bad memories, and at the center of it all is the moment Sam had told him that he killed Tyler's father because Tyler had asked him to do so. Once the books are gone, Tyler knows everything in the books, down to their ISBNs, and this is when he offers the key to Kinsey. But she isn't sure she wants to put anything in her head. She'd rather take something out. They find respite in the fact that they've kept Bodhi out of their conclusions, unaware that Bodhi has been spying on them all this while. The next day, Tyler is in class, imagining Jordan in her underwear, when the teacher scolds him and demands if he has studied the necessary books. Tyler confesses that he has read both books assigned for this year, and his teacher is impressed. His friends, however, are not. Jordan and Zach want to know how he achieved this feat, and thinking that this is his way to get closer to Jordan, he invites them over to his house tonight to show them how he did it. Locke Key Volume 2, Head Games Issue Number 4, The Wolf Dressed as a Sheep. We start this issue by being introduced to the time when an 8-year-old Duncan discovered his older brother and his friends visiting the drowning cave near the Key House. His brother scolded him for following them to this dangerous place, and Duncan is remembering this in the present day because he is having his students draw their painting upside down. He has them drawn upside down because it reveals details from one's subconscious that the conscious part of the brain might never include when drawing the right way up. He then uprights his painting of the drowning cave, and one of his students notices that he has drawn 2 people exiting the cave, a small boy and an adult. He chalks it up as a peculiar anomaly and ends the class. This is when we switch to Ellie's house. She's in the shower having a mental breakdown when Zach finds her and seduces her. Zach should be dead. He should be punished. Yet for some reason, Ellie can't believe that she's here, helping him commit all these heinous crimes a few decades after what he did to her friends. Their conversation reveals that Ellie had an abusive mother, and that if it wasn't for Zach, she'd still be stuck with her. As a matter of fact, the small part of Zach that lives inside Ellie is what allows her to be sane through all this. It is what allows Ellie to see and understand magic as an adult. Meanwhile, at the Key House, Kinsey is having a meltdown because Jordan is here. She and Tyler agreed to keep the key a secret, but he is already ready to tell a girl about it to get laid. And this is when the bell rings, and Kinsey realizes that he has invited Zach over as well, and she finally gives up. Tyler demonstrates to his friend what the key does, but he receives mixed reactions once his head is open. Jordan laughs at first, but then quickly freaks out and runs out of the Key House. Tyler follows her, while an intrigued Zach asks Kinsey about the story behind the keys, pretending to be aloof and that he doesn't know anything. Tyler tries to stop Jordan from leaving, but we see that she has already been struggling in her life. She's crying, and she isn't about to spend her Friday night with a freak who just likes messing around with people. Duncan, meanwhile, is spending the night with his boyfriend Brian. He is a mess, and worried about Nina and the rest of them back at the Key House, but Brian is focused on having fun tonight. He's met Duncan after months, and thus, after they share a kiss, he drags Brian into an old sports bar where they can drink and he can watch the game. However, there are 2 homophobic women inside the bar, and once they see Duncan and Brian, they start insulting them indirectly. They talk about how Provincetown once used to be home to purebred Americans, but soon became a vacation place for queer people. They insult them by talking about one of the woman's boyfriends, Ronnie, who is currently in jail for beating up any queer person that crosses his path. Brian can't overlook this, so ends up saying that maybe the town allows queer people to vacation and stay here because they're the one upholding its economy. For if it was up to women like them, the town would burn down. This gets him into a fight, and when one of the women swings for him, he dodges the blow, but Duncan ends up getting hit in the head with a beer bottle. He passes out and remembers what happened in the drowning cave that day. Luke had led him out of the cave that day. The tide was high, and that is when we learn that he was known as Dodge to his friends back then. It was the nickname his friends used for him. This is when we see Zach at the Key house. They're discussing all the possibilities that the key opens up for them, and this is when Body says that Kinsey pulled out the wellhouse woman from his end. For a moment we see Zach tense up and get scared, but he relaxes when they explain that the memory was embellished and that the woman looked like a green vampire. This is when Tyler returns and Kinsey finally confesses that she wants something out instead of putting things in her head. We then see Duncan wake up back at Brian's house and he insists on calling Tyler. He needs to warn them about who Zach really is, but they aren't out of trouble yet. The two homophobic women have followed them home and they are waiting for them to fall asleep so they can burn their house down. They talk about Ronnie again, and his girlfriend's last visit to him in prison wasn't good. He was distant, he had lost weight and seemed to be getting along with his inmates rather too well. Back at the Key house, Kinsey demands that Tyler take out Fear and Tears from her head, and so they do. Tyler uses the key on her and they pull out Fear and Tears and trap them in an empty soda bottle. Fear looks like a demon, while Tears look like a hooded Kinsey. Fear tortures Tears and keeps them flowing by telling the hooded Kinsey all of the worst conclusions and possibilities. Locke Key Volume 2, Head Games. Issue number 5, The Monster Out of Your Head. Kinsey stares at her fear and tears as they spill out every insecurity she's ever had in her life. Her struggles with her image, her struggles accepting that they're still being hunted, first by Sam Lesser and now by the Wellhouse Lady. They spill out her fear of dying like her 8th grade classmate, spill out her fear of her mother becoming a drunk. But when the bottle topples over and Fear tries to escape, Kinsey simply blocks the opening using her thumb. Fear stabs her again and again, but Kinsey doesn't even flinch. Zach, meanwhile, uses the smashed photo of her and Duncan as an excuse to learn more about her uncle, and she tells him that he doesn't have a woman in his life. Kinsey then blocks the bottle opening with a bottle and plays off the 3 bleeding holes in her thumb as a new scar that looks like a smiley face. Duncan, meanwhile, still bleeding from his head, forces himself to get up in order to call Tyler. Upon learning that he wants to warn his nephew about Luke's ghost, Brian tries to calm him down by telling him that he might not be thinking straight. He goes to get Duncan some aspirin, but upon returning, he realizes that Duncan has already passed out again. The women are still waiting outside, hoping for the TV to turn off soon, and this is when we see Zach wake up at the Key house while everyone else is sleeping. He goes to Kinsey's room, takes the head key, and then uses the anywhere key to visit the evidence room. He grabs an old submachine gun and then pays Duncan a visit in his room. While holding Duncan at gunpoint, Zach uses the key on him and takes a look inside his head. Unlike most adults, Duncan's head is full of colours, which surprises Zach. Nonetheless, he has a job to do, so Zach reaches inside Duncan's head and pulls out both of his memories, the one of the cave and the one of tonight. He then puts Duncan to sleep and flushes both the memories down the toilet. Zach is starving, and so he decides to have a banana in the kitchen, where he finds Duncan's painting from this morning. Brian ambushes him before he can figure out that it's about them. Assuming that this is Ronnie, the homophobic boyfriend, he threatens to kill Zach. Realizing that Duncan has a boyfriend, Zach tries to shoot him, but the old gun jams. Brian uses this opportunity to run out of the house, and this is when the 2 homophobic women see him approaching them with a knife. Thinking they have been discovered, the 2 return to their car and run Brian over. Zach is surprised by the accident, but because things have gone his way, he leaves using the anywhere key while singing to himself. The police and ambulance sirens wake Duncan up, and he runs around the house trying to find Brian. Meanwhile, Zach visits Ellie and promises to offer her exactly that when she asks for his help. At 2:55 a.m, he is back at the key house, but when he tries to place the head key back at Kinsey's bedside table, she wakes up. He chalks it up to him being curious about what he saw being true. It's why he visited her room to assure himself that her fear and tears trapped in a bottle were real. Kinsey's fear, meanwhile, is yelling at the top of its lungs, trying to warn her about Zach, but now that it's not inside her, she simply asks Zach to put the bottle in the drawer. Zach continues to charm Kinsey, and before you know it, she confesses that she has a crush on him. They kiss, and this is where this issue ends. Locke Key Volume 2, Head Games, Issue Number 6, Ellies Story. This comic shows us what happened when Zach visited Ellie last night and offered his help. He used the key on her, and for some reason, Ellie was helpless. She couldn't stop him, and that is when she confessed to him. She'd tried stopping him many times. She'd tried killing him when he wasn't looking. She had tried to warn Professor Ridgway about what Zach was planning to do, but every time she tried to call him, she dialed the wrong number. This is when Zach explains that a part of him lives inside her, in her head, which is why she's useful to him, and it's why she can't betray him. He then threatens to harm Rufus, because for him, it would be fun to torture Ellie by tormenting her son right in front of her. As he reaches into her head, he chides her for growing up, chides her for forgetting what magic used to be like, for all the secrets they knew when they were young. He then reaches inside her head and tells her that he is finally going to take away the part of him that lives inside her head, and this triggers Ellie's memory of how all of this started. Ellie's mother was one of the Locke family servants, and when they had fallen on hard times, the Locke family had given them a beach house. Duncan handed over the keys, and as the memory continues, we learn that Duncan and Rendell's parents had promised Ellie's mother this home, named the Soggy Cove, a long time ago. Duncan was simply fulfilling his parents' wishes. Even back then, Duncan was dating Brian. But when Ellie gets inside the house, we see that her mother was a nasty old woman. She hated the Lockes for being rich, and Ellie for having birthed Rufus. She used to smoke inside the house and drink during the day, despite knowing how unhealthy it was for Rufus. She always forced Ellie to put Rufus to work, and though Ellie wanted to fight back, all she did back then was to avoid any unwanted conflict. That night, after putting Rufus and her mother to bed, Ellie tried to have a night of her own by fetching her vibrator from the hole behind the bathroom mirror, but that is when Duncan woke up and the vibrator fell down the shaft. Duncan had peed himself, and after Ellie had put him back to sleep, she'd gone back into the bathroom and had tried to find her vibrator. Instead, Ellie found a jar containing a mini form of Dodge, trapped in a glass jar with the words, "In case of emergency," break glass sprawled on it. She had slipped on the bathroom floor seconds later. Ellie fainted, the glass jar broke, and the mini Dodge was freed. The jar also had 2 keys in it, the key to the well house and the gender key. Mini Dodge put the well house key in Ellie's hand and then crawled into her mind through her ear. When Ellie woke up a few hours later the next day, she found both the keys and contemplated what she was going to do. That morning, Rufus had tried to get his mother to stop smoking, and so she had burned him with her cigarette. Ellie was appalled by her mother because she used to do the same thing when she was young, but her mother had simply chalked it up as an accident. That day, Ellie had put the keys she found in a pouch, the same pouch we initially saw around Dodge's neck in the well house. She had then called Jackie to babysit Rufus while she and her mum went clamming for the Thanksgiving dinner, which was an old family tradition. However, once out there and on the steps along the cliffside, it is revealed that Ellie planned to push her mother and kill her, but Ellie didn't have the stomach to go through with the plan. Moreover, her mother had turned around and she knew exactly what Ellie was planning to do. In a state of panic, Ellie had run into the yard of the key house, and that is where she had found the well house. Ellie unlocked it, following the instructions on the note, and when she stepped inside, she knew she could hear Dodge's voice. However, this is when her mother had shown up and had started abusing her and Rufus. Ellie told her mother to shut up, but she simply tossed her cigarette in Ellie's eye. Ellie fell down on the ground while her mother spewed the meanest words a parent could utter. She hated Ellie. She hated having birthed her. She hated her grandson, and she hated that Ellie never did as she was told. This is when Ellie had had enough. She spoke what was was on her mind. Ellie wished that she had killed her mother when she had the chance, and this is when Dodge intervened. He showed up behind Ellie's mother and snapped the old woman's neck with one swift move. Ellie couldn't believe that it was Luke as a woman in front of her, and Dodge had let her go with her mother's body because he knew Ellie as an adult wouldn't comprehend what was happening. This is the memory Zack is pulling out of Ellie's head right now. He then pulls out the part of him that was inside her head, followed by all the memories of Luke. He then confesses that he isn't doing this out of pity. He's doing this because she was driving him nuts. She never called him Zack, she only called him Luke, which put both of them at a lot of risk. He continues removing memories, and when Ellie tries to protest, he simply puts her to sleep. It's 2:33 a.m. right now, and now that he's done with Ellie, Zack decides to take Rufus's memories away. He goes to the boys' room, but a keyhole doesn't appear at the back of his neck when he tries to use the key on Rufus. Zack is confused, but ultimately decides to leave thinking Rufus's underdeveloped brain might be the cause of this. However, once Zack is gone, we see Rufus wake up and talk to his toys. He knows Zack was here to hurt him, but Rufus has an army of his own, which is when we see his entire room, and Rufus has a table full of toys that seemingly answer to him. They're his army, and he's their commander. Locke Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows. Issue number 1, Showdown. Tyler Locke is sleeping in his bed when Zack's shadow suddenly appears in the hallway and then disappears. Then his mother, Nina Locke, informs him that she must go to Provincetown this week. His uncle Duncan is fine, but Brian was hit by a car and is now in coma. His brain is swollen and she needs to go offer her help to them. Tyler beats himself up for not replying to Brian's message about going fishing a few days ago, and Nina calms him down. She is still drinking, and in a moment of weakness, she confesses to her son that he should never have kids, not unless he wants to be worried about them all the time. Nina begins to weep profusely because she fears something will happen to her children while she's gone. Tyler calms her down, assures her that he will look after his siblings, and then takes her back to her room. On the way there, Nina tells him that she was sure that Tyler was awake because she heard someone in the hallway a few minutes ago. Tyler jokes that it must have been one of the mansion's ghosts, not realizing that Zack is skulking just around the corner. Once Tyler and Nina are gone, Zack makes his way to the back of the mansion and uses the ghost key on the ghost door. He then walks through, leaving his body behind, with a horrid expression on his face. When Zack appears in spirit form, we see something odd about his spirit. It has a weird creature attached to its back across his spine. The creature seems to be one with his spirit, and it has tons of eyes looking in every possible direction. Zack then finds Sam's spirit sitting beside the pond. Sam thought Zack must have forgotten him, but Zack tells him that he had to wait for things to return to normal before he could come see Sam. Although Sam isn't buying his sweet words anymore, Zack's spirit even tries to woo him by assuming his female form. Sam lashes out and demands answers. He wants to know what is attached to Zack's back, and Zack tells him that it's a kind of key, a key that unlocks perfect happiness. When he was Luke, he was very unhappy, but when this key found him, Luke found happiness and took up the nickname Dodge. And this isn't the only key. There are many more creatures like it, and Zack plans to free them all so that they can attach themselves to more souls. Souls like Sam. But Sam doesn't want happiness. Sam wants a body, and not just any body. He wants Zack's body. Zack sighs and tells Sam that he can get him a body eventually, but he can't have Zack's body. He then demands the Omega key from Sam, and Sam tells Zack that he did find it. But when Zack asks for its location, Sam refuses to divulge it. For once, he is saying no to Zack, and if Zack is so desperate to find it, he should go fetch it himself. After all, in ghost form, all he has to do is think about the key, and he would be automatically taken to it. Zack almost falls for the trap, but quickly realizes that Sam wants him gone so that he can take his body. He tries to persuade Sam, tries to tell him that he can get him a different body. He can get him Bode's body. Bode is young and Sam will get to live a long life, but Sam isn't convinced. He wants Zack's body. He wants to be cool and popular. He wants to date Kinsey, and he wants to feel wanted. Zack tells him that this is an impossible dream, and Sam says that he feels used. This is when Zack begins to manipulate him. Zack tells him that he was his friend, his only friend. As an echo, Zack was able to communicate with him across long distances because Sam was hollow and empty inside. You can only hear echoes in empty places, and Sam was so empty that he could hear Zack across thousands of miles. It's the reason they became friends in the first place. But Sam feels used. Zack used him to get what he wanted and then left him for dead literally, and he has now returned because he thinks that he can use Sam again to get the Omega Key. Zack by now is losing his patience. He tells Sam that he's here to help him as a friend, but if he doesn't want to help him, then Zack can find other ways to acquire the Omega Key. In a last-ditch attempt, Zack asks Sam what he wants. What would make Sam happy? This is when Sam bursts out, forms a chainsaw using his spirit arm, and lunges at Zack, saying that he never wants to have lived at all. He wants to be annihilated, and he wants to take Zack down with him. He wants to return the favor by killing Zack. Knowing where this is going, Zack forms a sharp sword using one of his fingers, dodges the chainsaw, and stabs Sam through the arm. He then slashes Sam across the face, which spills black blood. Zack then reveals that souls can be destroyed too, and Sam's won't be the first one he has destroyed in this form. He slashes Sam's face while joking, saying that he might end up recreating Sam's scarred face in spirit form as well. Sam then distracts Zack by swinging wildly, and when Zack tries to retaliate, he realizes that Sam is headed for his body. He also races towards the body, and when Zack's human form opens its eyes, we realize that both spirits are inside it. Sam then begins to use the pouch around Zack's neck to strangle him, and the two spirits begin to argue in the body's head. Zack tries to fight back, but Sam is too strong. He strangles Zack and then smashes his head against the wall. In reality, it looks like Zack is trying to strangle himself and that he smashed his head against the wall using his own hands. This wakes Nina Locke up. While downstairs, Zack desperately fights for his life. He bites off the rope around his neck, and while Sam tries to claw his face, Zack finally manages to cross the ghost door again. They are both spirits now, but the battle between them continues. Sam has formed a noose using his left arm and is using it to strangle Zack. This forces Zack to form a huge pair of shears using his right arm and amputate Sam. But Sam doesn't cry in pain. Instead, he laughs, which confuses Zack. Sam then reveals that while in his body, he heard the supposed key to happiness that Zack lauded about earlier. Sam now knows that it isn't a key, it's a creature that gives Zack the illusion of free will, but in reality, Zack is doing everything the creature is asking him to do. That thing on his back makes all the choices and decisions, and Sam pities Zack. He was angry that Zack used him, but now that he knows how the creature is using him, Sam pities Zack. Sam grabs his amputated arm and reattaches it, and while Zack leaves, he promises to protect the Omega Key with his life. Sam will never let Zack have it. He will never let Dodge get his hands on it. When Zack wakes up, he hears Nina Locke approaching. In a state of panic, he grabs all his keys and quickly leaves the mansion using the Anywhere key. However, once he is in Ellie's house, he realizes that he is missing a key and curses himself. This is when Nina Locke picks up a key using the knife she was wielding. It's the key Dodge had from the start, a key with concentric circles and tons of sections, all leading to the middle. Locke Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows. Issue number 2, Lack of Fear. Tyler's in school, and he finds a disheveled Jordan sitting near the statue of Colonel Adam Craze, surrounded by books. She is struggling to finish her paper on ethics, and Tyler sees this as an opportunity to get in her good books. He apologizes about Friday and the supposed trick he pulled on her. He then gives her his ethics paper and tells her that she can submit it once she has changed the name. The school is being lenient with the Locke children because of what happened to them, so he will be allowed to pass the class without submitting the paper. Jordan kisses him on the cheek, and Tyler revels in his glory once she is gone. We then see Kinsey spending time with Zack. Since fear and tears were taken out of her head, her attitude has changed a lot. She doesn't seem to be scared of what would happen if Tyler found out about the two of them, but Zack does. So when he sees Tyler approaching, he quickly gets up and leaves. This is when Scott, the eccentric classmate who has been eyeing Kinsey for a long time, shows up. He compliments her new look, compliments the new green streak of hair she has going on, and then retains her interest in the conversation by talking about her father. He tells her that her father's name is written on a wall in the Drowning Cave. When Kinsey asks more details about the cave, he tells her that it's an old World War II bunker that school kids now use as a place to hang out. But the cave is also dangerous because a group of kids from their school back in the 70s supposedly died in the cave. Kinsey wants to see the cave, and Scott promises to take her there after school, but he has one condition. Kinsey is to let him ask her 3 questions, which she has to answer truthfully. The deal is struck, and his friend Jamal jumps out of the tree once Kinsey is gone. It turns out he had been listening to the entire conversation and was impressed by his friend's conversation skills. That afternoon, we see Kinsey, Jackie, Jamal and Scott at the Drowning Cave, the same cave where Duncan had followed Rendell and his friends. It's easy to put two and two together and figure out that it's likely Rendell's friends that died in this cave, though if they died due to an accident or due to Luke's machinations still remains to be discovered. Jackie is quite pessimistic about this venture. She knows that the cave floods with water at high tide, and going there in the afternoon is practically suicide. Kinsey, however, is excited by this venture, though both the girls hope that neither of the girls' parents talk to each other today, because as far as Nina is concerned, Kinsey is studying at Jackie's place, and as far as Jackie's mother is concerned, she is studying with Kinsey at the Key House. The boys lead them down the stairs, and Kinsey discovers the plaque for this military installation, East Battery 13, Lovecraft Station. The plaque is riddled with warnings and cautionary signs, but the group continues heading in nonetheless. Kinsey tries opening the first door she sees, but finds it to be locked. This is when Jamal tells her that the officials barricaded most of the doors in this place long ago. We get a good look at the door when the group has passed. It's quite intricate, looks ancient, and has the number 1 written on it. They then reach the barricaded area of the cave. Scott forces the corner of the chain link fence up, and Kinsey begins to pass through. Jackie, however, is skeptical. There's a huge unsafe sign on top warning people not to go any further. But Jamal and Scott reassure her that they've done this a million times, so she reluctantly agrees. Once inside, they reach a flooded catwalk, which surprises Scott because this place is usually dry, and this is where he saw Rendell Locke's name scribbled on the wall. Kinsey thinks that Scott was lying, but he reassures her that her dad's name is only a few more steps down into the water. Naturally, now that Kinsey's missing her fear and tears, she isn't afraid to make rash decisions, and when she learns that Scott has glow sticks, she begins to remove her shoes. Jackie is baffled by her behaviour. She forced herself to come here to ensure that Kinsey was all right, but Kinsey's attitude makes it seem that she's looking for death. Kinsey says that she isn't scared, but it's not her bravery that worries Jackie, it's her intelligence. Kinsey jumps into the water with all her clothes on while risking hypothermia, and Scott follows her, albeit in his tighty-whities. Jamal and Jackie stay above the water, and this is when we see a huge rat crawling out of one of the broken pipes. Scott hands over a glow stick to Kinsey, and though she doesn't reciprocate his advances, she makes it pretty clear that she likes him as a friend for now. She then dives underwater and indeed finds her dad's name written on the wall. The term Masters of the Keys is also slightly legible among the other words. Kinsey comes back up and says that she is going to dive down again to look at all the other words. But this is when Jackie begs her to come back now that she has seen her father's name. This is when the rat jumps on top of Jamal. Naturally, the boy panics and ends up pushing himself and Jackie into the water. This wouldn't have been so bad, but sadly, decades of flooding have made the catwalk weak, and thus, when both the teens fall on it, it gives way, and the stairs fall into the water as well. Jamal confesses that he jumped because of a rat and apologizes. However, they now have a problem at hand. None of them can reach the platform above, and if they stay too long in this cold water, they will get hypothermia. Either way, they are destined to die. Jackie begins screaming for help while Scott tries to calm everyone down. Though he isn't looking good himself, he has already begun shivering and stuttering due to the cold. However, when Jackie is told to calm down, she bursts out in anger and blames Kinsey for all of this. They should be home, drinking hot chocolate and doing their homework. But no, Kinsey wanted to go on an adventure and risk all their lives by diving in the water where they clearly shouldn't be in the first place. Scott calms Jackie down and tells her that they need to focus. And this is when Jamal finds a way for them to get out of the water. Two of them can get up on the catwalk support beams, and so the first one out of the water is Jackie and the next one is Scott, in order to save him from the cold. Once their friends are up, Kinsey and Jamal decide to swim away and look around the room to find another way of climbing up. However, once they are away from Jackie and Scott, Kinsey makes it clear that she swam away so that she could gather her thoughts. She knows there's no other way of getting out of here, and she hopes that Jackie and Scott get rescued by someone. Jamal also accepts his fate. After all, it's due to him that they're all trapped in the water. Kinsey, however, now regrets her action, regrets having gone down the stairs and getting Jackie tangled up in all of this. They then return to Jackie and Scott, and when a panicked Jackie asks them if they found a way out, Kinsey calmly tells her that they will simply have to wait and hope that someone comes down in the cave today. Jackie tries to help Jamal up on the same support beam as her to help him out of the water, but that is when the platform begins to give way and Jamal leaves Jackie's hand. Jamal tells Jackie that the platform isn't strong enough to support their weight, and neither is she strong enough to pull him up. Everyone has now begun to panic, and when Jamal begins to talk like they're all going to die, Scott begins to cry. Kinsey then asks Scott to be done with his 3 questions before they all die, but Scott is too depressed to hit on her right now. Jamal instead takes the chance, and after a few questions about Kinsey's father, Jamal confesses that he likes her too. He doesn't have a crush on her like Scott, nor does he plan on crossing his friend, but if they're going to die, he wants to pretend like he had a girlfriend before his life ended. Without another word, Kinsey leans in and kisses Jamal. Scott promises to have words with Jamal about this if they survive, and this is when Jamal asks his 3rd question to Kinsey. Is she afraid to die? Kinsey obviously denies being scared, but when asked why, she averts the question because she only promised to answer 3 truthfully. This is when Kinsey realizes that she and Jamal have stopped shivering, which likely means that they're on the verge of hypothermia. Jackie panics and begs Scott to pull them up, but Scott reminds her that the supports are weak and won't be able to bear the weight of all of them. This is when Kinsey gets an idea, and without consulting or warning Jackie, she climbs onto the same support beam as her. This part of the catwalk breaks and falls, creating a way for them all to get out of the water. Jackie is the first one to climb out, and when she has calmed down, she screams at Kinsey and questions her sanity. Kinsey hasn't been herself lately. She has been detached, calculative, but prone to danger as well. Jackie is in tears, and that is when Kinsey approaches her and apologizes. She takes responsibility for dragging Jackie into this mess, and this is when Jackie screams at her again. Jackie is tired of Kinsey being calm and never emotional. She is tired of her always being so reasonable in times of panic. Kinsey apologizes and says she'd rather drown because she can't bear the thought of getting Jackie killed, and this is when the 2 friends hug, and so do the boys. Scott tosses the glow stick into the water, and this is when we see all the names scribbled on the wall. They're all Rendell Locke's past friends, including Luke Dodge Caravaggio, and they scribbled this in the year 1988. But when the glow stick touches the bottom, we see that there's a dead woman trapped under rubble, heavily decomposed. Locke Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows. Issue number 3, Last Light. Bodie Locke has stolen Tyler's cap and is currently running for his life because his older brother is chasing him. Tyler is mad, but Bodie doesn't plan to give the cap back, not until Tyler returns the head key because it belongs to him. Bodie crawls under a huge carpet while Tyler tells his younger brother that he doesn't have the key, Kinsey does, and he should annoy Kinsey if he wants it back. Unfortunately, Bodie also understands that Kinsey has changed. He can't find a way to annoy her, and he doesn't believe that she's the same sister anymore. Tyler understands Bodie's conundrum because her attitude has been annoying him lately as well. But when Tyler angrily removes the carpet, he is baffled by what Bodie has discovered once again. Bodie's affinity to finding keys in the house has come to play again. He's now found a giant key embedded into the floor. It has 2 human figures, one smaller and one quite huge. Tyler doesn't want to believe that this huge key is usable, but when Bodie points out that the lock for it is right in front of them in the form of a window, Tyler can't help but accept his brother's discovery. Tyler shoves Bodie out of the room before he can try it out, and this is when we see Detective Mutuku is here to visit Nina Locke. She has called him to ease her mind, and Mutuku reassures her that the attack on Brian in Provincetown wasn't related to Sam Lesser or his accomplices. And while Nina Locke has a drink, she shows Mutuku the key she found yesterday. She thinks this is the key with concentric circles that Sam was looking for and shows it to Detective Mutuku. He reveals that Sam had keys tattooed all over his body, and if she wants, he can compare the key to Sam's tattoos. When Mutuku leaves with the key, Nina warns Tyler about keeping the house clean and not having any parties while she is in Provincetown. Meanwhile, Bodie is in the car pretending to be a race car driver, and Tyler reassures his mother that he and Kinsey will keep the house intact and look after Bodie. Nina had sent Kinsey to get her phone, and because she hasn't come back yet, she decides to check in on her. Kinsey, meanwhile, is snooping on her mother and going through her drawers. Her drawers are filled with empty liquor bottles, which is when Nina interrupts her. She doesn't mind Kinsey coming home late or snooping around the house, but she definitely minds Kinsey sneaking in and snooping on her stuff. This is when Kinsey snaps at her mum. She has been putting up with all her antics, but her being an irresponsible drunk is something Kinsey can never forgive. She wakes Tyler each night for comfort without wondering what her oldest son might be going through. This is when Nina gets in Kinsey's face, and Kinsey mentions that she can already smell alcohol on her breath. Her mother has already begun drinking, and that too when she is going to drive to Provincetown. Good thing she isn't taking Bode along with her, and this is when Tyler interrupts the argument and asks his sister to go away and walk it off. He begs her to go away, and as she's living, a broken Nina says that she doesn't even know who her daughter is anymore. Kinsey tells Nina that she doesn't know her because she never talks to her. She is always drunk, which is why if Nina crashes the car and dies today, she won't cry for her, because after all that has happened, and after all the numerous times she's cried, she's out of tears. Tyler tries to comfort his mother, but Nina sends him away, and once she's alone, she takes another big swig from the bottle. We then see Kinsey relaxing on a bench outside when Scott and Jamal try to get her to come with them to a Muse concert. Kinsey quickly sees through their miserable plan because they don't have tickets, they don't have fake IDs, and they especially don't have money. They both give up and sit beside her, and this is when Jamal gives Kinsey a gift that both Scott and Jamal bought for her. It's a joke, something they want Kinsey to wear to school if she has the balls for it. Late at night, Tyler reads Peter Pan to Bode and puts him to sleep while Kinsey is busy chatting with Scott in her room. Tyler decides to watch some scintillating shows, and this is when we see Zach skulking around the house again. Simultaneously, Nina calls Tyler and says that she missed the 11 p.m. ferry. She overstayed at the hospital and will now have to drive back to Lovecraft instead. Being the good son, Tyler implores her to stay the night in Provincetown and come the next day, and Nina reluctantly agrees. However, she has already asked Detective Matuku to check up on the kids at night and make sure they are okay. However, when the call is done, we see that she is already in the bar drinking the night away and calling and pretending that she missed the ferry was all a ruse for her children. Zach continues sneaking around the house, continues to look and search the wine cellar for the Omega Key, but he finds nothing. However, when he stumbles upon a stash of black currant jam from 1988, he realizes where Rendell hid the key. He breaks the jar and finds not the Omega Key, but a key with a candle flame on it. He unlocks the corresponding door and goes further down into the cavern beneath the house. There, in a dimly lit room, he finds a crown with 2 dragons. Zach inserts the key into the crown and then puts it on his head. This is when shadows from around the room begin circling around him. He now commands them and orders them to find him the key to the well house and the key to the black door. The shadows quickly engulf him, and once covered in them, Zach decides that he should look like a lady and pretend to be the body was talking to in the well house. This is when Body's shadow leaves his side, and upon seeing Peter Pan's representation in the book beside Bode, it takes his form. The shadow then closes the book loudly, and this is when Body wakes up. Kinsey is busy staring into her laptop, completely unaware that her shadow, which now looks like the mangled witch representing her fear, is looming behind her. Tyler is busy munching on his pizza, which was just delivered, but when he returns to the TV room, he finds numerous shadows waiting to ambush him. A shadow that looks like an ancient Roman warrior attacks him, and when Tyler tries to fight back, his punches fly straight through the shadows. They slowly begin to trap him in black, and before you know it, all of Tyler Locke has vanished into the darkness. Locke Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows, Issue number 4, Shadow Play. Tyler is being held upside down by shadows, and this is when Zach, dressed as the woman from the well house, reveals himself. Cleverly, Zach keeps mum, but Tyler isn't going down without a fight, and he starts by spitting in Zach's face. This is when a shadow in the form of a snake bites his ear in retaliation. Kinsey, meanwhile, is being strangled by her own shadow, and when the darkness tries to penetrate her being through the nose, she remembers the portable flash in her backpack. Kinsey quickly fetches it and fires it to test it out. The shadow vanishes instantly, and her hunch is right, and so Kinsey fires it again and quickly runs out of the room, but fails to notice that her shadow just stole the head key from her nightstand. The entire home is full of shadows, but when Kinsey hears Bode's cries for help from downstairs, she can't help but rush to his aid. Meanwhile, Zach uses the darkness to question Tyler about the Omega Key and the key Nina Locke recently found. Tyler knows nothing about the keys, and this is when Zach reveals that the other key is the key to the well house. This is when Tyler figures out that the well house woman wants the well house key because that is the only place where she can be trapped. Zach then reveals that Nina Locke has the key, and this is when Tyler jokes that his mother recently gave him the key, but he stuck it where the sun doesn't shine. This, however, gets him punched in the face. This is when Kinsey discovers that Bode has barricaded himself in the kitchen, and just when she is about to be overtaken by the shadows, Bode manages to get the door open and both of them stumble inside. Kinsey explains to Bodhi that these are just shadows that have come back to life. And this is when Bodhi reveals his shadow was dragging him into the wine cellar when he managed to open the refrigerator door. He was able to get free. And after that, he turned on all of the lights and barricaded himself in the kitchen. He tried to call for help, but the shadows had already smashed the phone. Kinsey reassures Bodhi that he did great. But this is when Bodhi wonders what would happen if the shadows cut the power to the house. And this is exactly what happens the very next second. Kinsey gets ready to protect the two of them as much as she can using the flash. And this is when Bodhi notices a car approaching the mansion, while simultaneously, Tyler notices all the shadows going away from the room he is trapped in. It's Detective Matuku. And though Bodhi tries to scream for his help, Matuku quickly gets captured by Zach, who uses the head key on him. Zach removes the memory of this encounter and why he was visiting the mansion and then sends Matuku away. One of the shadows also manages to grab the wellhouse key from Matuku. As Matuku leaves, he chides himself for being lost in his thoughts, and it is also revealed that he has a crush on Nina Locke. As he is driving away, in a desperate attempt to get his attention, Kinsey breaks one of the windows using a saucepan. Unfortunately, Matuku is too far gone, but Bodhi and Kinsey leap out anyway. What's more is that Kinsey uses the flash to make the shadows go away and then manages to snatch the wellhouse key that is left behind. Zach is beyond angry and summons all the shadows in the house to himself to drown out the flash she wields. Unfortunately for him, this frees Tyler. And while Kinsey and Bodhi escape, we see a huge dark wolf hot on their trail. But this is when a streak of light splits the key house in half, and the next thing you know, a giant Tyler Locke is stepping out of the opening, and while the huge wolf snatches away the key from Kinsey, Tyler confronts it. Locke Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows. Issue number 5, Light of Day. Kinsey and Bodhi stare up towards their big brother as he fights the huge wolf shadow which is currently trying to engulf him in the darkness. But the shadows aren't enough, and Tyler is too huge for Zach. Tyler simply grabs the wolf and chucks him away. Zach crashes through the backwoods and smashes through multiple trees, though when he gets up, he makes a huge mud ball and throws it at Tyler. However, this is only an inconvenience for Tyler at this size, and he fights back. Zach, however, trips Tyler and throws him into the sea, but Zach still doesn't realize how huge Tyler is, for when he stands up, the sea only reaches his waist. The two of them continue fighting, and though Zach is about to get the better of him, Tyler soon notices the light coming from the lighthouse and decides to use it to his advantage. The shadows vanish instantly when the lighthouse shines, and Zach is plunged into the sea. Tyler quickly begins to search for the wellhouse woman, but Zach evades his gaze. However, Tyler manages to find the crown of shadows, while Zach narrowly manages to swim back to the shore. However, he still has the wellhouse key, but that is a problem for another day. Bodhi has been weeping through the entire ordeal. But now that it's all said and done, both Kinsey and Tyler reassure him that everything's all right. Tyler then carries his siblings in the palm of his hand and shows them the Lovecraft skyline. Tyler reassures them that this is their home now and they won't be running away after today, no matter what happens. A few hours later, Nina Locke gets home, and when she finds the house completely trashed, she begins to panic. But when she heads inside, she finds Bodhi eating a banana and reading a book in the kitchen as though nothing is wrong. And when she quickly rushes away to demand answers from Tyler, Bodhi simply goes back to reading his book and eating a banana. She finds her son sleeping on the couch with a bandaged ear while nursing his jaw with a cold pack. What's worse is that she finds her panties hanging off the lamp near the couch. She wakes him up and demands answers, but to her surprise, Tyler simply confesses that he and Kinsey had some friends over, and unfortunately, things got wild. He promises to clean everything up after a few hours, and even pay for the broken windows. An hour or two later, we see Tyler approaching Kinsey, who has spent the entire morning on the bench near the fountain. Tyler says it was a great way to avoid their mother, and Kinsey says it was for the best. Tyler reveals that their mother took the news rather well, but Kinsey knows she didn't scream because she feels guilty. Kinsey knows that Nina didn't miss the bus. She avoided coming back so she could drink the night away. Their conversation also reveals that they used the head key on Bodhi to take out the memories of last night. Kinsey says that they should have also taken out his fear, just like hers, but Tyler chides her and tells her that kids need fear. It's what keeps them alive, especially someone as curious and inquisitive as Bodhi. This is when we learn that Tyler has hidden the crown of shadows in some place no one will ever find, and they then discuss the future. Kinsey and Tyler know that the woman from the well will be back soon and won't stop coming until she finds the Omega Key. Kinsey, for once, can't wait to beat her again, but Tyler, it seems, is getting tired of living in a state where they have to keep expecting a confrontation. The next day, we see Kinsey wearing the life jacket to school because of Scott and Jamal's dare. And though Zach tries to warn her that she looks like a doofus, Kinsey doesn't care. It seems she is over him and no longer likes him. He tries to tell her that Scott and Jamal are the weirdos of the school and that she shouldn't hang out with them, but Kinsey has made her choice. They are her friends and she likes them, and if Zach wants to hang out with her again, then he will have to hang out with them too. Zach seems to hate rejection and his mind seems to be already planning something while Kinsey walks away. Tyler too is having a bad day because as soon as he reaches the campus, Jordan throws her ethics paper result in his face. She got an F, all because she used the paper Tyler gave her. If she had at least tried on her, she would have passed, but because she used what Tyler wrote, she got an F. Turns out, putting material in your head only makes you remember the exact copy of it. You still need to work on it to properly understand it. Tyler spends some time sitting by the Colonel Adam Cray's statue, and this is where this issue comes to an end. Locke Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows, Issue number 6, Beyond Repair. This is a story of Nina Locke's struggles. For today, she has just received an old VHS tape from their previous house. It is another painful memory of her husband, Rendell Locke, and she is just about to drown her sorrows, watch the tape and have some wine, when suddenly her youngest, Bode Locke, walks in with a bloody chin. Horrified, she hugs him, but Bode is quickly distracted by his dad, who's juggling on the TV while telling a knock-knock joke. Nina quickly fetches the first aid kit and fixes up Bode's chin while he is happily distracted by his dad on the TV. She then asks how Bode got hurt, and turns out he fell while trying to reach something he found above the toilet. He was dangerously balancing on a stool above the toilet while using Nina's broken cane to reach the key. Nina indulges her son and reaches up to get what he was going after, only to realise that it's another key. This one is shaped like the rod of Asclepius. Nina is honestly tired of this house and its keys, but Bode is intrigued. In order to curb what seems like Bode's overactive imagination, she frantically opens the nearby cabinet with the same key with rod of Asclepius symbol on it and shows Bode that the key doesn't do anything. She shoves the broken cane inside it and closes the door. Bode gives up the idea, and that night we see him trying to struggle to juggle grapefruits. Nina knows why he's trying to juggle, and though Rendell was excellent at it, she thinks she isn't too bad at either. She tries to juggle plates just like her late husband, but unfortunately, Nina hasn't been herself since the murder, and drinking day and night doesn't help either. Naturally, she ends up smashing one of the plates on the ground. When she tries again, she fails again, and this time she blames Kinsey for not drying the plates properly. We then see that Bode is quite smart for his age. He knows what his mother is trying to do, and so to distract her, he tells her to stop juggling and tell him a story instead. Unfortunately, Nina is too deep in her own sorrow and simply says that she needs some time alone. Kinsey steps in and offers to tell Bode a story and to put him to sleep. Nina doesn't mind, and Tyler checks in on his mother before going to Zach's place to spend the night with him. That night, while Bode is sleeping, we see Kinsey on a call with Jackie, and they're discussing how weird Zach is. He isn't familiar with modern technology, and he was surprised to see Kinsey texting the other day. Simultaneously, Nina is in the bathroom, contemplating that everything in her life gets broken immediately. This is when she remembers the cane and curses it for failing her, for it was the first thing that broke back when Sam Lesser attacked them. However, when she opens the cabinet, she finds that the cane has been repaired. This is when Bode's stories about the keys begin to echo in her mind again, and in order to test out her theory, she shoves the broken stool in the cabinet next. A few seconds later, the cabinet grows, and when she opens it, she sees that the stool has been fixed. She then gets the broken plates from today and shoves them inside, and wouldn't you know it, when she opens it, the plates have been fixed. That night, Nina happily juggles everything she can find. Plates, wine glasses, a bottle of wine, everything. But instead of catching them, she lets them smash on the ground because she knows she can repair them. But this is when Nina's depression takes over again, and she gets the idea to use the cabinet to fix her dead husband. She gets the urn with his ashes, and shoves them inside the cabinet. She knows that the cabinet grows to fit the size of the fixed item inside, but when she opens it a minute later, the urn is still there. She is desperate for her husband to be alive, and so she makes herself believe that the cabinet just needs some more time to fix him. After all, he has been turned into ashes. She closes the cabinet again, and assuming that her husband will be back soon, Nina starts worrying about how disheveled she looks. She should dress herself up, and so she has a bath and dresses herself in one of her sexy nightgowns. When Nina makes her way back to the bathroom again, Tyler is in the next room eating some takeout, but Nina is too lost in her own dreams, and when she sees Tyler from the back, she thinks it's her husband, and she leaps on top of him and begins to weep. Tyler finds this weird and pushes his mum away, only for Nina to scream at him that he isn't her husband, Rendell. She then quickly covers herself up and rushes to the bathroom. She opens the cabinet only to find the urn still there. Distraught and angry, Nina hits the cabinet with her newly fixed cane, only for it to break again. She then takes the urn in her hands, but Tyler thinks his mother is having an episode, so he tries to take his dad from her. But the urn slips, and the next thing you know, it is smashed and broken on the bathroom floor. Nina is overcome with anger, and she blames Tyler for this entire ordeal. She storms off to the kitchen, and that is when Kinsey shows up and says what everyone avoids saying. She tells Nina that she's drunk, and that's why all of this happened. Kinsey tells her mother as it is. They have all been through the same thing as her. While she lost her husband, they lost their dad too. But her depression and being drunk doesn't give her the right to treat people like shit, especially her children. Suddenly, Nina turns around and slaps Kinsey, but Kinsey is unfazed and promises to walk away from the entire family if she ever touches Kinsey again. Nina still has her hand up, and so Kinsey dares her to try again. But this is when Bodhi shows, and while weeping profusely, he begs everyone to stop fighting. Nina's anger suddenly vanishes, and though Nina tries to reach for her youngest son, Kinsey steps in and takes him into her arms instead. She tells Nina that she isn't fit to be Bodhi's mother tonight. She isn't fit to be his mother most nights. She breaks down, and this is when even Tyler stands up to his mother. He can deal with her being drunk, deal with her drunken crying every night, but her putting her hands on Kinsey, especially after she was beaten unconscious by Sam Lesser, he isn't going to stand for it. But despite that, he is worried about Bodhi instead. If Nina ever puts Bodhi through something like this again, God only knows what he would do. His is when Nina lashes out at Tyler again, because she is Bodhi's biological mother, and all of them are stuck with her. Tyler, now distraught, asks Nina what she wants, and she screams that she simply wants him to grow up so that he too can leave her and never come back. Tyler says that he can't wait for this last year of high school to get over so he can leave this house, but begs his mother not to create more scenes like tonight while he's still here. When he walks out, Nina crumples down on the floor and regrets everything she has said to her children in anger tonight. The next day, Kinsey, Bodhi and Tyler wake up only to realise that the kitchen floor is full of broken bottles and plates. Kinsey angrily begins to clean up, while Bodhi does his best to help innocently. This is when Tyler remembers the urn and goes to the bathroom, but when he reaches it, Tyler is stunned. Kinsey checks up on him, but when she looks at what has her brother surprised, she too gets the shock of her life. Inside their father's ashes is the cause of all their problems, the Omega Key. Locke Key Volume 4, Keys to the Kingdom, Issue Number 1, Sparrow. Nina is visiting Bodhi at his school, and his teacher uses this opportunity to tell her that Bodhi has trouble socializing with other kids. This is when we see the other kids try to invite Bodhi to play football, but he wants to pretend that someone used the head key on him to take away all his memories. They all think he's weird and walk away, but Bodhi is pretty smart for his age and has a very extensive vocabulary for a 7-year-old. Nina, however, promises to have a talk with him when they get home. We then see him building a snowman at home, because in his view, this is going to his first friend. When Zach tries to tell him that having friends in life is a good thing, we learn that Bodhi likes being alone. Kinsey, meanwhile, is grilling Tyler for the Omega Key's location yet again, but Tyler isn't telling her because he knows she can't keep a secret, especially after her fear and tears were taken away. Zach tries to intervene in their conversation, and this is when Bodhi hits him with a snowball. Zach gets so angry that he imagines murdering Bodhi, killing Kinsey, and using their lives as a way to get the Omega Key's location from Tyler. However, when he snaps back to reality, another problem awaits him. Kinsey just referred to him as her boyfriend in front of Tyler, and naturally, her old brother simply walks away angrily. Kinsey walks the other way, and Zach decides it's best to avoid Tyler for now. Bodhi, meanwhile, is angry because just when they were about to have a snowball fight, the teenagers decided to talk about relationships and everything got messed up. You now. He then tries to hit a sparrow, but soon gets scared by the entire flock. But when he looks in the bird bath, he finds the animal key lying at the bottom of it. Kinsey and Zach kiss and revel in the fact that they don't have to hide their relationship anymore and fail to notice Bodhi sneaking back inside the house. Zach knows Kinsey and Tyler were talking about the Omega key and he probes her about it, but thankfully, Kinsey doesn't reveal this secret. Zach heads back to his home, while Kinsey decides to catch up with her older brother and have a much-needed chat. Tyler is quite distraught when she catches up with him, and though he tries to pretend that it's because Kinsey dates every best friend he makes, it turns out the real problem is that he blames himself for Dad's death, which is why he has started doing what he would do in situations. Kinsey comforts him, and they spot a deer nearby. Bodhi, meanwhile, has found the animal door and can't wait to figure out what animal he would become. He knows the door will transform him into his animal persona, so he imagines being a gorilla and a crocodile. But when Bode walks through, he turns into a sparrow interested. Although he is initially unimpressed, he soon enjoys flying through the sky until he joins a flock of sparrows. Finding the animal door unlocked, Zach uses the opportunity to transform into a wolf. He then howls and calls nearby dogs to his aid. The pack then starts tracking Tyler and Kinsey's scent, and on the way they slaughter the deer that was near them moments ago. Kinsey, meanwhile, has apologized to her brother, not for dating Zach, but for not telling him earlier so that he didn't get such a shock. Bodhi, meanwhile, learns the ways of a sparrow flock, while Tyler and Kinsey walk back home. Kinsey, meanwhile, doesn't approve of Jordan because she thinks that Jordan's crazy, but Tyler genuinely likes her and thinks that he can fix her. This is when the pack ambushes them, and Tyler already knows that the wolf is the well house woman. Kinsey tells Tyler to get ready to run and then smacks the wolf with a stick and takes off. Bodhi notices his siblings being attacked by the pack, and when he reveals this to his flock, they all decide to help. Some of them will sacrifice themselves so that the dogs get distracted, while the others will do their best to distract the wolf. The sparrows begin their assault, while simultaneously Tyler gets taken down by the wolf. But this is when the flock comes to his rescue, and while Zach and his pack are busy killing the sparrows, Tyler and Kinsey manage to escape. Angry and disappointed, Zach walks back through the animal door, and moments later, Bodhi follows. As soon as in human form, Bodhi returns to where he lost his sparrow friends. Kinsey and Tyler comfort their little brother and carry him back home. The next day, Bodhi is playing Being a Sparrow, and though most of the kids avoid him, one kid named Jason Bird stays behind to become his new friend. Moments later, more kids join them to play Bodhi's new game. Locke Key Volume 4, Keys to the Kingdom. Issue number 2, White. Kinsey, Jordan, Zach and Tyler are walking down the road in a nearby town while two racist janitors talk about how it's unfair to have a boss of colour. An African-American lady, meanwhile, is being wheeled around by her aide, who seems to be the superior of the janitors. This is when the four teenagers cross their paths while discussing Zach being a fencing champion and how it is a lame sport. When they pass by, the woman in the wheelchair notices Tyler and begins screaming loudly. She repeatedly screams the word dodge and then, "Rendell, you need to dodge." This is when her aide says her name loudly, Erin Voss, while trying to get her inside, and Kinsey's eyes light up instantly. She knows who she is. Erin Voss was her father's friend. Kinsey read her name in the drowning cave, but instead of replying or saying something, Erin Voss begins to scream the word white again and again. This is when the janitors show up and comment that they shouldn't take her racist remarks personally. This is a mental facility after all. This is when they read the sign beside the gate and learn that this is the McClellan Psychiatric Hospital. Meanwhile, Tyler wants nothing to do with this and begins dragging Jordan away. Kinsey tries to stop him, but Tyler wants nothing to do with this. For once, things had begun to be normal in his life, and he doesn't want to change that anytime soon by getting involved in this ordeal. That evening, Kinsey discusses her conundrum with Scott and Jamal. She needs needs to get inside the facility, which will be easy because Jamal knows that she can pretend to be a student who is volunteering to read stories to the elderly. But the real problem is race. She won't get any answers out of Erin if she keeps screaming white over and over again. Unbeknownst to her, Bodhi has been listening to this entire conversation. This is also the night Zach, in his female form, visits the two janitors from the psychiatric hospital at a bar. He woos them, drinks their beer, and then offers to sleep with them if they get him a picture of Erin Voss with the door of her room visible in it. Zach says that he needs the picture to win a bet with her friend, who still believes that their beloved babysitter, Erin Voss, is not in a mental hospital. The men agree, and Zach hands them over a camera phone so that they can send him the picture as soon as they get it. Zach has been discovering the marvels of 21st century technology lately, and he can't believe that he ever spent time in the 80s knowing what the future held for him. That night, Bodhi visits Kinsey and offers to help her talk to Erin Voss. In return, she has to give the head key back to him, and he wants to be included every time Kinsey and Tyler discussed the keys. He knows that they think he is scared, but in fact Bodhi is ready to fight, and he is the one who knows the most about the lady from the well anyway. When Kinsey agrees, Bodhi holds up the skin mirror to her face. He then looks in the mirror himself, and once he looks away, his skin has changed. They are both African American. The next day, the two of them travel to the city in a bus to visit the hospital, but on their way there they are treated differently because of their race, which creeps them out. When they reach the hospital, the janitors are already busy taking Erin's photo in her room. Bodhi sits down to tell the patients in the lobby a story, while Kinsey decides to visit Erin under the pretext of visiting the ladies' ward. The janitor, meanwhile, sends the photo to Zach, but as soon as he does so, Zach enters the room using the anywhere key while dressed in a totally black outfit with a ski mask. He's wielding two knives, and he starts by stabbing the first janitor in the back. He then greets Erin, and he was under the impression that he took all her memories away. But today, she remembered Rendell, and he can't let that happen. Erin is scared to death when she sees Zach, and all she can say in return is the word white. She begins to scream white over and over again, and this alerts the other janitor. He goes inside the room to get his friend back, only to then be murdered by Zach instantly. This is when Kinsey shows up to talk to Erin, completely unaware that a dead body is right behind her. All Erin can say is dodge repeatedly, and because she isn't screaming white, Kinsey takes this as a yes and uses the head key on her. When she looks in her mind, she sees the recent memory of Zach killing the janitor under the name Dodge, while her memory of meeting Kinsey lies under Rendell's name, and it seems she had a crush on Kinsey's father. Kinsey takes out the killer's memory and begins to unmask him, and this scares Zach, and he uses the anywhere key to quickly escape. However, there are no features under the mask because Erin never saw his face. When Erin sees the memory, she begins to repeat the word Dodge frantically, and Kinsey realizes that Dodge is a person. She also figures out that Dodge is likely the person who wiped Erin's memories. But this is when she is interrupted by the nurse from the reception. She isn't supposed to be here. This makes Kinsey turn around, and this is when she discovers the dead body in the room. She quickly takes out the key and bolts out of the room while the nurse begins to scream after seeing the body. Thankfully, Kinsey and Bodhi make it out of the hospital before being caught, but when they try to hail a taxi, no one stops for them. They are forced to change the colour of their skin after 5 tries, and the next taxi they hail stops for them instantly. Kinsey is telling this story to Tyler while watching TV tonight, and they both discuss the ramifications of what happened today. Though Kinsey wouldn't be a suspect, some poor teenager of colour who looks like her will likely be caught by the police. Locke Key Volume 4, Keys to the Kingdom, Issue Number 3, The Happenings of February. This comic goes over the month of February for the Locke family, so a lot happens during this time. So we will be going through these events one after the other, and this is the most challenging month for our protagonists. 1st February, Tyler gets swapped in as more and more of his teammates get beaten unconscious by the opposition. 2nd February, Tyler is walking around with a cane and a bruised eye, which Jordan finds quite hot. But Brinker Martin warns him that Jordan's affinity for injured and broken guys is a huge red flag. Jordan convinces Tyler to ditch the fishing hat his dad gave him because he looks cooler without it. 3rd February, Tyler and Jordan make out on the beach while Zach and Brinker try to fish. They discuss Jordan, how crazy she is and how lucky Tyler is. Their conversation also reveals that the school's ice hockey team has been losing every game this season, but Zach knows that Tyler won't stop trying. It's partly the reason why he likes the guy. 4th of February, Kinsey wants to take her relationship with Zach to the next step by exchanging each other's happiest memories. After all, she's allowed him to see inside her head. It's natural that she'd want to see a part of him, but Zach rudely refuses, and when she insists, the two of them break up, and Zach walks out. Kinsey wishes she still had her tears. 5th February. It's Sunday, and the Locke children are attacked by Zach again, this time using the Thorn Key, which gives up control over unlimited thorny tendrils. 6th of February. After averting yesterday's attacks, Bodhi is questioned by Nina about the scratches all over his body, but he just chalks it up as a nasty fall. 7th of February. Jordan questions Tyler about the scratches, but he doesn't give her a straight answer as well. 8th February. Kinsey is grilled by Scott and Jamal. They want to know how she got the scratch marks, and they aren't going to believe her lies. They know something weird is going on in her life, and they want in. 9th of February. While Nina Locke is cleaning up the place, Bodhi discovers a mysterious book titled Keys to the Kingdom. He pretends to read it to avoid his mother, but inside the book is a hole in the shape of a lock, and inside are 3 keys: the Angel Key, the Herculean Key, and the Harlequin Key. The Harlequin Key unlocks a wardrobe that contains all sorts of enchanted weapons and clothing. Bodhi shares this discovery with Kinsey and Tyler once they get home. 10th of February, it's Friday, and the Locke children this time are attacked by a mechanical owl. Kinsey uses the angel wings to save her siblings. 11th of February, this time they are attacked by Zach using the chain key, and Bodhi uses the Herculean amulet and the key to save everyone's lives. 12th of February, Kinsey finally reveals the secret to Jamal and Scott and starts by showing them her fear and tears. The two emotions drowned because eventually the tears filled the bottle to the brim. Both of them are excited to try the key, and Scott goes first. 13th of February, Scott got Kinsey to remove his sanity last night, which was a bad idea because today he is parading around naked in the school. 14th of February, Tyler scolds Kinsey for revealing their secrets to her friends, but Kinsey sees no problem in it, especially because Tyler decided to reveal it first to Jordan in an attempt to get laid. 15th of February, things seem to be chaotic around the house because today Bodhi decided to use the giant key on himself and his friend Jason Bird, who ends up crushing the gazebo. Tyler can't seem to catch a break, and he scolds Bodhi and asks him to turn back into normal sized instantly. 16th of February, Tyler scolds Bodhi about what he did yesterday and tries to get him to understand the consequences. If someone saw him, things could get real bad for the family, but Bodhi is being nasty and tells Tyler that he has turned into their mother. He even uses a crutch now and keeps scolding everyone. 17th of February, it's Friday again, and this time the family is attacked by Zach using the Undertree Key, which gives him power over an army of squirrels. Tyler faces them alone, and Kinsey and Bodhi are reluctant to help him because he has been scolding them lately. 18th of February, Zach uses the music box key to hypnotize Kinsey, and she almost ends up killing Tyler. 19th of February, Duncan updates the family on Brian's current status. There has been no improvement, and they will only know about the damage to his brain once he wakes up. 20th of February, Jordan is beyond angry because her professor has grounded her for failing the recent test. Tyler, however, calms her down and offers to study with her for the entire week so she can ace the test. And Jordan can't understand why he's so nice to her. Tyler is about to confess his love to her, but she puts her hands over his lips because she doesn't want him to do something that he would regret later. He doesn't know her, doesn't know anything about her, and doesn't know her past. 21st February, Kinsey and Scott make snow angels, and Scott convinces Kinsey to share one of her happy memories with him. 22nd of February, Jackie is helping Scott prepare a presentation, but he is too high on Kinsey's happy memory. He feels special and thinks that he has a bond with her. 23rd of February. However, the next day when he goes to catch up with his friends, he discovers them exchanging memories. They have been exchanging memories about their dads all afternoon. Jamal lashes out at Scott for thinking that he would be the only one with a claim over Kinsey now that she's single, and though Kinsey tries to tell them no one has a claim, Scott's heart is already broken and he leaves the mansion crying. 24th of February, Tyler visits Jordan in her room at night to congratulate her for passing the test, but discovers that she has been sleeping with Brinker Martin. Brinker chalks it up as a drunk mistake, but then chides Jordan for breaking Tyler's heart. Jordan's answer implies that she did that intentionally, maybe because she knew Tyler was too good for her. 25th of February, Tyler catches the garbage guy and discovers that the school trash is thrown out on the last Saturday of every month, which is thankfully today. He frantically looks through the trash and finds the hat he threw away. 26th of February, it's Sunday, and Zach this time attacks them using the teddy key, but Tyler has been craving violence since his breakup, and he ends up killing all the teddies all by himself. 27th of February, Tyler breaks Brinker's nose as soon as he reaches school, while simultaneously Scott and Jamal trade blows outside. Both friends cry while fighting because they never thought they'd fight each other. 28th of February, Kinsey has a chat with his brother. He's wearing his hat again. Kinsey confesses that she feels really bad and wishes she could feel sadness. She violated Jamal and Scott's trust, and Jackie refuses to be friends with her anymore because she is too reckless, and Kinsey knows that Jackie is right. She wishes she could cry right now. She then sees that Tyler has started wearing the Herculean amulet along with the key regularly, and Tyler reveals that it is because he is tired of being weak. Their conversation reveals that the amulet increases a person's strength by 3 to 5 times. 29th February, Tyler scores the first goal of the season for his ice hockey team while leaving unconscious opponents in his wake. Locke Key Volume 4, Keys to the Kingdom Issue Number 4, Casualties. Bodhi is busy playing with his action figures under the dining table while Kinsey brings in Rufus, Ellie's son, to spend the day with them. Bodhi and he quickly bond, and Kinsey decides it's best to leave the kids to play on their own. The two begin to have a battle against fake enemies with their action figures, and Bodhi has no problem understanding Rufus's military lingo. While Bodhi is busy playing on the other side of the room, Rufus notices Sam's spirit entering the room. He can not only see Sam, but can also hear him, so Sam decides to reveal the truth to him. He turns into a soldier and talks to Rufus in the military lingo that he understands. He tells Rufus of how he died, albeit he paints it as a war he fought. He then leads Rufus into the cellar, and then the room where the Crown of Shadows was stored, and tells Rufus all about Zach Wells and who he really is. He tells Rufus that Zach is the enemy, and Rufus is currently living under the same roof with him. He then points up and shows Rufus a huge set of red eyes staring back at them. Zach seems to be using another magical item to spy on everyone in the house. He reveals that Zach is using a special key to keep an eye on Rufus for now, and reveals that Zach is torturing his mother, Ellie. His mother is in danger, but Ellie has taught her son well. Even though Sam tries to convince him to kill Zach, Rufus refuses. Sam then reveals an instrument panel that controls the pump in the drowning cave, which is where the black door is located. He reveals that Zach's being controlled by a parasite that comes from the other side of the black door, a parasite that in the olden days would be called a demon, and Zach desperately wants another one to come through, because then he can copulate and create more parasites and ultimately infect the entire world. Even after knowing this, Rufus refuses to kill Zach, so Sam convinces him to help in some other way. He leads him to the well house and reveals that Zach is an echo of someone who lived a long time ago, and another way to destroy him would be by forcing him through the well house door. Rufus says that he isn't strong enough to do all of this on his own, and Sam reassures him that he doesn't have to do much, only reveal all these secrets to the Locke children so that they can do the job on their own. This is when Bodhi shows up to get Rufus for some hot cocoa, and as they leave, Rufus notices that Zach's eyes have begun hovering over him once again. This is when we see Zach in a decrepit room using a device called the philosophoscope. It has various designations on it: best teacher, truest love, usefulest soul, untrustworthy ally, and grave hazard. Apparently, the apparatus allows you to spy on people with these designations in your present day, meaning that Rufus is Zach's untrustworthy ally. Zach doesn't believe it, and takes out the philosophoscope's key and leaves. This is when Sam shows up and reveals that he was the untrustworthy ally that the philosophoscope was warning Zach about. As Rufus and Bodhi have hot cocoa, Rufus tries to tell Bodhi what he learnt from Sam, but this is when Zach shows up and takes Rufus away before he can reveal anything. Kinsey seems to have developed feelings for Zack again and offers to walk him and the kids out to the car. He hugs Bodhi, playfully pretends to murder him and then takes Rufus away. But when he is alone with the kid, he threatens to frame Ellie for all the murders he has committed. She will go to jail, and Rufus will be put in a state home where the other juveniles will chew his guts out. He then breaks one of Rufus's action figures to threaten him, but this is when Kinsey shows up and takes Zack away. Rufus stares at the broken figure on the ground, but imagines it to be one of his fallen soldiers. Nonetheless, this is a war, and the battle must go on. As they walk to the front gate, Kinsey and Zack make up and get together again. Back in the hospital at Cape Cod, things finally seem to be going well for Duncan, because Brian has just woken up, and he seems to be himself. He remembers everything and reveals to Duncan that there was a kid with a gun in their house that night and wants to know what happened to him. Locke Key, Volume 4, Keys to the Kingdom, Issue Number 5, Detectives. Part 1. Pieces begin to fall. We're in the future now, but we're seeing the events of 6 days ago. The day after Brian woke up, Tyler came to visit him in the hospital. The two of them talked about life, and Brian noticed that Tyler seemed depressed. He tried to cheer him up by telling him that relationships at this age are quite tough to maintain, and that he shouldn't beat himself up over them. But Tyler has other reasons to be depressed, reasons he can't share with Brian. Duncan comes in and informs Brian that Tyler has been accepted into Berkeley. Brian congratulates him, but the news of joining a prestigious college does little to cheer up Tyler. As Duncan and Tyler leave the hospital, Duncan reveals that there was another attacker in their house that night, a kid with a gun. Duncan describes him to Tyler, and when he says that the kid had a lip ring, bells begin to ring in Tyler's head, because this description perfectly matches that of Zack. 2 days later, we see Zack and Kinsey spending time together in the manor grounds, and Tyler has been keeping a close eye on Zack ever since he got back. He is busy studying when Kinsey visits him and tries to set him up with Jackie. Tyler refuses the offer because he doesn't like to date his siblings' friends, unlike her. He doesn't mind being alone on prom night, and when he asks why she's here, he learns that he's here again to probe about the Omega Key. Tyler is sure that this is Zack's doing because Kinsey says that Zack could also help them hide it. Tyler ignores his sister, and their conversation reveals that Zack always vanishes on the weekend for his big research paper in Boston. We then see that Tyler hasn't been studying. He has been marking the days they have been attacked in a calendar, and surprisingly, they coincide with Zack's disappearances on the weekend perfectly. 2 more days later, Zack and Tyler are hanging around at the skating rink, and Tyler has now begun to see through Zack's charm. Zack tries to woo him by saying that they're here to see the sexy ladies, but Tyler chides him for talking like this while dating his sister. He then probes Tyler to learn if Brian remembered anything from the night of the attack, but Tyler lies and says that Brian doesn't remember the night. He then takes Bodhi skating, and we catch up with Locke in the present day. They are all here to watch Zack's fencing tournament, but Tyler knows this is his only chance to dig dirt on Zack. He needs to get out of here, and when Bodhi says that he is hungry, Tyler decides to leave with Bodhi and get him some dinner back at the house. Zack wins the current round, but we learn that he has 2 more matches today, which should give Tyler enough time to carry out his plan. Bodhi found Rufus's broken toy and fixed it up, and Tyler convinces him to give it back today, so they visit Ellie's house. Now that Zack has taken away Ellie's memories, she greets Tyler warmly and lets him inside. He talks to her, but Ellie conveniently blanks out whenever he mentions Zack and her supposed nephew's past. Bodhi and Tyler then go upstairs to meet with Rufus, and this is when Zack inquires Kinsey about Tyler and Bodhi. She reveals that they have gone home and foolishly mentions that Tyler has been creating a calendar of all the attacks. This tells Zack that something is wrong, so under the pretense of preparing for the next fight, he quickly heads into the locker room. Tyler and Bodhi, meanwhile, meet up with Rufus, and this is when the kid warns Tyler that he is in enemy territory. Tyler knows what this means. He leaves Bodhi with Rufus and goes to check Zack's room. And wouldn't you know it, in a jar he finds all the memories of him that Zack stole from Ellie, including the one where he killed her mother in his female form. But this is when Zack shows up using the Anywhere key, and while he keeps Tyler occupied by commending his detective skills, he quietly grabs the music box from the top of his cupboard. He inserts the key while Tyler still has his back to him, and Tyler tells him that he caught on to his ruse the day he saw him as a wolf. If the Wellhouse lady was the wolf, then why would she have balls in wolf form? Unless there was a key to change one's gender, just like the animal key. Tyler quickly turns around and tries to smash the jar on Zach's head, but this is when Zach gives the command, "Don't move," and the music box begins repeating it over and over again. Zach has now hypnotized Tyler, and he is under Zach's control now. Tyler refuses to give up the location of the Omega key, which is when Zach uses his sword to cut Tyler's face. This is when the bell rings, and when Zach goes downstairs to check who it is, he finds Detective Mutuku standing in his doorway. Locke Key Volume 4, Keys to the Kingdom, Issue number 6, Detectives, Part 2, Killing an Echo is never easy. The first page gives us a glimpse of how this comic's going to end. The emergency responders are trying to resuscitate someone while Zach carries away a squirming Bodhi in his arms. We then jump back to the events of 5 days ago, when Detective Mutuku was investigating Joe Ridgway's home again for clues. This is when his fellow officer pointed out that Ellie still came to his memorial every day to light a candle, which got him thinking. His partner also reveals that Ellie's mother passed away a year ago, which may be why she feels sorry for Professor Ridgway. 2 days later, Detective Mutuku is shown the neck fracture of Ellie's mother, and it is extremely similar to the fracture that caused Sam's death. Someone held their neck and twisted their head around with extreme force. The doctor believes that both these deaths were murders and the same person caused them. And then, a day ago, before today's confrontation, Mutuku had tried calling Ellie's home to talk to her, but the call was answered by Rufus instead. When he talked to Rufus, he learnt that someone named Zach was staying with them. He had threatened Rufus, and if he knew Rufus was talking to a policeman right now, he would be really mad. Rufus had cut the call, leaving Detective Mutuku with more unanswered questions. Then comes the day of the confrontation. Zach greets Detective Mutuku at the front door with the sword still by his side, and when Mutuku's guard is down, Zach cuts his face. He then stabs him in the stomach, and when Ellie tries to stop him, Zach stabs her as well. In a moment of vulnerability, she remembers him as Luke, and Zach decides to give her a one last kiss, but instead, he bites her lower lip and rips it off angrily. He notices Mutuku going for his gun, and Zach cuts his hand again. But Detective Mutuku isn't about to go down without a fight. The detective grabs a knife, parries the next blow, and kicks Zach in the gut. He then grabs a rolling pin and slashes at Zach with the knife. When he dodges, Detective Mutuku hits him in the leg with the rolling pin. He still thinks that Zach is a child, which is why he is taking it easy on him and begging him to surrender. Meanwhile, Bodhi and Rufus are watching all this from the stairs. Zach throws a lamp at the detective, grabs Bodhi as his hostage, and runs upstairs. Detective Mutuku thinks that Zach can't get out of the house, unaware that he has the Anywhere key, and so he tells Rufus to get out of the house for his own safety. But seeing his mother dead has shaken Rufus up, and for the first time he speaks normally and tells the detective to let him go. He then runs to Ellie's dead body and kisses her while Tyler screams for Bodhi to keep his ears covered when they enter the room. Meanwhile, Kinsey is getting anxious at the tournament because Zach is late for his match and isn't picking up his phone either. Zach, meanwhile, orders Tyler to take out the next person that enters the room. Tyler has no choice but to comply, because the music box is still going, and Zach jumps out of the window with Bodhi by his side. Detective Mutuku's officer friend from earlier enters the room, however, and Tyler throws the jar of memories at him. Tyler then tackles him to the ground, and the officer is too stunned by the little memories running around to do anything. Mutuku enters the room next as Tyler watches Zach reach the road below. Kinsey calls the Whedon residence, and Rufus reluctantly answers the phone. He tells Kinsey all that has happened and that Zach is taking away Bodhi right now. We see Zach using the Anywhere key on a car door, and Kinsey slams her phone shut because she knows exactly where Zach is going. Zach is at the key house, and he knows Sam is watching him, so he offers Sam what he wants. Sam can have his body, and he will have Bodhi's. He doesn't tell Sam about the murders, but instead says that he has decided to switch bodies because Tyler will never tell Zach about the Omega Key's location, but might reveal it to Bodhi. Sam has been listening, and when Zach walks through the ghost door, Sam jumps into Zach's body and Zach jumps into Bodhi's. But when they wake up, Sam grabs Zach by the scruff and begins to drag him towards the well house door. But when he reaches it, he realizes that Zach hid the well house key. It is no longer in the pouch, And this is when Kinsey ambushes him and begins to hit him with ice skates in the face again and again. Kinsey keeps hitting him until officers forcefully pull her off. This is the scene we saw when the comic started. It wasn't Zack and Bodhi. It was Sam and Zack, just in different bodies, and the person that the paramedics were trying to revive was Sam in Zack's body. Zack, aka Sam, is unfortunately dead once again, and Tyler hugs Bodhi and carries him inside. As Bodhi is carried away, he pulls out the wellhouse key and mocks Sam's spirit again. Locke Key, Volume 5, Clockwork's issue number 1, The Locksmith's Son. Benjamin Locke and Miranda Locke look sheepish, desperately trying to hold themselves together as their parents tell them how to carry on once they are gone. His father tells Benjamin to sell the goat and to complete the order of creating a lock that Jim Laurie placed, but he has already paid in advance. Benjamin doesn't trust his talents, but his father reassures him that he has fine hands. Their mother tells them to be strong, and then the British hang them. It is 1775 in Lovecraft, Massachusetts, and the British have just killed Benjamin's parents for aiding the revolutionaries. They plan to take over the Key House as well, but Benjamin tells the officer that they were simply renting it from their uncle, who currently lives in London, and he will have to go through the proper authorities to legally take over it. The officer huffs and walks away, because now he will have to deal with bureaucratic procedures. But before leaving, he allows the children to stay in the well house until they can find a suitable place or family for themselves. That night, both the children are distraught. Miranda can't stop speaking while Benjamin doesn't say a word and keeps working on the lock. By the end, Miranda gets tired and Benjamin realizes that he was building the lock backwards and that he will have to start all over again. The next morning, they take the craggy steps by the cliffside down to the drowning cave, and through their conversation, it's revealed that their father created a pump to empty out the cave so that the revolutionaries could hide in it. When they reach deep inside, they are met by Captain Adam Crias and Mr. Frederick. They playfully scared the children at first, but their moods changed dramatically when Benjamin and Miranda expressed their desire to meet their older brother Joshua. They began to avoid the subject, and Miranda grew restless with each passing second. She demanded answers. She needed to tell her brother that their parents were dead, but that is when Mr. Frederick reluctantly revealed that Joshua is dead too. Adam Crias tried to hide the cause of death, but Mr. Frederick felt that the Locke family deserved the truth after what they had been through. They took the kids deeper into the cave, and their conversation reveals that many more soldiers were killed during the ordeal. Adam Crias told the other soldiers that all of them died because a keg of gunpowder exploded, but in reality, things were far more sinister. Mr. Frederick revealed that one of the men, Harm Timmerman, was taken over by a demon and he slaughtered everyone. They all knew Harm, but they didn't know the soul inside his body when he attacked them. Harm's brother goes on to explain that when they reached deep inside the cave, they found a painting on the wall, hundreds of years old, and the air was cold, which is why Joshua decided it would be a good place to store the supplies. Mr. Frederick, Joshua, Harm, and his brother, along with other soldiers, got to work, but with every trip they made, the painting began to change and come alive until it was a door. When it manifested as a door, all of them knew not to open it, but Harm had already put his ear to the door and was listening to whatever was talking to him from the other side. The next second, Harm opened the door and walked through, and when the others saw what was on the other side, they were shown visions of everything they had ever desired in their lives. They began to walk towards the door as well, and only Mr. Frederick, rushing to step in between them and the door, broke the trance. The demons from the other world were drawn to the door like moths to a flame, but every time they flew through, they fizzled out and became a pile of smoking, otherworldly metal. But this is when Harm walked out and began to force the others to go through the door. When they didn't, he began slaughtering them. He decapitated Mackenzie, stabbed Mr. Frederick in the shoulder and Joshua 6 times, but Joshua fought bravely and made sure he choked out Harm before passing away. They have kept Harm alive, albeit restrained, to learn more from him. They go to meet the killer, and Miranda, being a devout Christian, decides to forgive him and pray with him. Harm pleads for help, pleads that the demon from his body is long gone, but no one is buying his lies. Harm's brother, meanwhile, is near the door, keeping an eye on it, and the soldiers have tried to keep it close by piling locks in front of it. Benjamin, meanwhile, is puzzled by the nature of the metal that the demons become once they pass through the door. This is when they fail to notice that the door is opening behind them, and Harm's brother willingly puts his hand through it. It is then revealed that Harm's brother was on his side all along, and that he had untied him long ago. Harm leaps up from his chair and pokes out Mr. Frederick's eye and then rips out a piece of his throat with his bare teeth. Harm's brother leaps at Benjamin with his rifle in hand, but Adam Crias shoots him in the head, while simultaneously a dying Mr. Frederick shoots and kills Harm and saves Miranda. As Harm is dying, the demon truly speaks through him, and for it, dying is an otherworldly new experience. Benjamin shuts the door as Adam Crias discusses with Miranda what they should do. They come up with the plan of letting the children exit the cave first and then surrendering to the British a few hours later. Death as a soldier is far more suited than succumbing to these demons. But Benjamin wouldn't let his family's sacrifice go in vain, so he decides to use the lock he created to keep the door closed. He drills a hole through its border and then uses chains and the lock to seal it as best as possible. Adam now wants them to leave and get some rest, but Benjamin won't leave this place until he knows that the lock works. Thus, they decide to sleep near the door while Adam keeps the first watch. However, Benjamin quickly wakes up an hour later when he hears otherworldly whispers. He relieves Adam of his duty and takes the next watch, and once everyone is asleep, he puts the demon metal to his ear. As suspected, the metal begins to talk to Benjamin, and this is when the door begins to open slightly. His goat is near the door, and within the next few seconds the chains break, and his goat is sucked into the portal. He wakes up Adam, who instantly decapitates the possessed goat once it attacks Benjamin. Adam wants to go through with his plan of surrendering, but Benjamin demands a few more hours from him. He is going to make a new lock, this time from the demon metal. Benjamin worked relentlessly for the next 12 to 16 hours and created the Omega lock and key. He takes the lock and makes his way to the cave with his sister, planning to make more using the demon metal he has gathered. This is when we see Tyler and Kinsey's temporal forms, and it seems they are researching the origin of the keys. Locke Key Volume 5, Clockworks Issue Number 2. Key acquired. Bodhi and Jason Bird are waiting for their school bus, and Jason notices that Bodhi has been acting differently. He tricks Bodhi by saying that it was fun when they used the head key, and when Bodhi agrees, Jason knows this is someone else. He threatens to tell Kinsey and Tyler, and this is when Zach pushes him into the street and Jason gets run over by the school bus. This was 4 days ago, and while pretending to be Bodhi, Zach chalks up the murder as an accident by stating that Jason was chasing his kite into the street. A day later, we see Duncan comfort Kinsey on her favourite bench outside. She hates life, everyone keeps dying, and just like Bodhi, she doesn't want to go to school anymore. Everyone is scared of her because she murdered Sam and now Zach. But Duncan tells her to take things one day at a time. The next day, Bodhi and Tyler are fishing when Zach yet again tries to probe Tyler about the Omega Key's location. Tyler doesn't reveal it, and instead comforts Zach, thinking that his younger brother is scared. Through their conversation, we also learn that Kinsey now uses the angel wings to fly daily. The next day, Bodhi is rummaging through Kinsey's drawers to find the Omega Key when he finds her drowned fear and tears. This is when Nina Locke becomes suspicious of him and begins questioning him, and Zach ends up smashing the bottle on the floor. He chalks it up to leaving a doll for Kinsey to cheer her up, but Nina doesn't seem to recognise her son anymore. We learn that she has stopped drinking and is regularly going to Alcoholics Anonymous, but Zach as Bodhi keeps pushing her to have a glass of wine with food. Nina stands her ground and carries Bodhi out of the room. This is when Kinsey's fear and tears come back to life. They seem to have befriended each other while trapped in the bottle and hate that they have come back to life. Fear takes control of the situation and drags Tears out of the room and through the corridor before they are crushed by Kinsey's foot. Kinsey is talking to Duncan, and it is revealed that the house's boiler isn't working, even though multiple plumbers have checked it, and they all think everything is fine. Fear and Tears then find a sleeping Tyler and climb into his head through his nose. When they reach his head, however, they learn that Tyler's heroic version has locked all of his negative emotions of hate, fear, and crazy thoughts behind a prison in his mind. When Kinsey's fear realizes that she will be locked away, she angrily attacks Tyler's heroic version, and once subdued, she frees all the emotions and ideas trapped behind bars. Tyler cries while sleeping as this is happening, and 8 hours ago, when he woke up, he felt a lot more timid and scared than usual. Today is Jason's funeral, but once they get there, his brother blames them for his death because she thinks the locks and the key house are cursed. Anyone who gets in touch with them or the house ends up dying. Nina calmly approaches her and tells her that she relates to her, especially after the recent death of her husband. The woman sobs copiously while Nina tries to smooth things over with her. Duncan drives the kids back to the key house, but while in the car, we see that Tyler has begun to think that Jason's mother was right. 8 people have died in the past 6 months since they arrived in Lovecraft. And though Kinsey tries to calm him down, he breaks down when she leaves. Why did their dad want them to come here if anything ever happened to him? Why did he think that Key House was the safest place? Then Tyler arrives at an unknown conclusion in his head and heads inside the house while carrying a can of gasoline. This was 1 hour ago, and when Duncan discovered that Tyler was trying to burn the house down, he tried to stop his nephew. But Tyler was determined, so he knocked his uncle out with the can and continued his task. Kinsey also tried to stop him, but Tyler threw the grandfather clock down the stairs to prevent anyone else from climbing up. This is when Zach, in the body of Bodhi, confessed to Kinsey that he broke the bottle that contained her fear and tears, and they might have entered Tyler's mind instead. Tyler reaches the last room, locks the door, and takes out his lighter. But this is when Kinsey comes crashing through the window and takes him down using the angel wings. Kinsey then uses the head key on him, but when Zack stares inside his head, he finds what he has been looking for, the Omega key. Tyler hid it in his head. It was the safest place to hide it. But both he and Kinsey fail to notice that Bodhi isn't putting the key back in Tyler's head. Kinsey comments that her brother's thoughts are quite perverted and then takes out her fear and tears and stores them where they should have been in the first place, in her head. She then begins to weep, and Tyler hugs, and while lost in this moment, they both fail to notice the Omega key still in Bodhi's hands. Zack has acquired the Omega key. Tyler and Kinsey then use the head key on Duncan to make him forget what Tyler did, and as they are trying to place the grandfather clock in its rightful place, Tyler discovers the time shift key which used to be on top of it. Locke Key Volume 5, Clockworks, Issue Number 3, Tamers of the Tempest. Mark Cho is wearing the Crown of Shadows, while Kim Topher uses the angel wings during the Tempest play that Rendell and his friends put up back in 1988. Everyone thinks these are excellent props, not knowing they are magical. Meanwhile, in the present day, Kinsey and Tyler are discussing the time shift key. They conclude that it must allow them to travel time, and when they find a place where they can select dates, their suspicions are confirmed. They wind it up to the oldest date possible and then decide to use the time shift key. Bodhi watches all of this unfold, still clutching the Omega key close to his heart. And when Tyler turns the key, he and Kinsey instantly become white. They visit the day Benjamin and Miranda Locke's parents were hanged, and they are appalled after they learn what the British did to them. As they sit and try to calm themselves down, Tyler's extensive historical knowledge impresses Kinsey. Turns out, it's his favourite subject, and he likes it because he likes to know why things ended up as they are right now. They then follow Benjamin and Miranda to the drowning cave, which is when we switch back to the present day. Nina Locke calls for them, and they return to their real forms seconds before she arrives on the scene. They ask Bodhi what happened while they were gone, and he says they simply turned white for 2 seconds, and this is when Tyler and Kinsey realise that a second in the present is a day in the past, because they were gone for 2 days. Nina questions them about the house smelling like gasoline and Duncan being hurt, but they simply chalk it up as an accident and say that they will clean things up instantly. That night, they explore the grandfather clock again once everyone has gone to sleep, and they discover that you can't travel to the future using the clock. The highest number you can set is 1999. Tyler jokes that even the clock suffers from the Y2K bug, and this is when Kinsey discovers an index of specific dates along with symbols for different keys beside them. Someone marked the creation dates for each key. They wish they had found this key earlier, so much mayhem could have been avoided, and Tyler regrets that it doesn't go beyond the year 1999 because he wanted to see what Zack did with Bodhi in the key house before Kinsey ambushed him. He then decides to tackle these problems another time, and they decide to visit their dad on the day he performed the play with his friends. They watch Rendell and his friends using the enchanted items to put on a fantastic performance, and once the play is over, the group gathers around a campfire in the drowning cave. Kim Topher has been excitedly waiting for Mark Cho because his uncle is a Hollywood agent and he was supposed to be watching the play, which would hopefully get Kim hired as one of his clients. However, Mark reveals that his uncle wasn't able to make it. Even though he promised to come to the play that morning, he skipped it because his new girlfriend wanted to watch a movie instead. Kim bursts out in anger, calls Mark names, and when he tries to apologize to her, she makes racist remarks towards him and tells him that he's going to die a virgin. She then walks out of the cave and Ellie follows her to calm her down. After all, they're best friends. Rendell, Erin and Dodge reassure Mark that Kim was in the wrong and he shouldn't take what she said personally. Meanwhile, outside, Kim is sitting by the fountain when Ellie tries to talk to her. Their conversation reveals that this was Kim's only chance to get into the movies. Her father won't pay for a creative degree and is forcing her to go to a dingy college. Her dreams are over, and when Ellie tries to reassure her, Kim lashes out at her and says that she doesn't understand why Luke likes her. Luke could be dating the prettiest girl in school, yet for some reason he chose Ellie. Ellie storms off, and this is when Luke tries to talk to her, but when he learns that she pissed off Ellie as well, he decides it's best he leave her alone and find Ellie instead. This is when Rendell approaches her and manages to calm her down. He hugs her, and their conversation reveals that another reason for this outburst was the fact that they're all going to be adults after the year is over, and once they are, all the magic from their lives will be gone and they will forget about the keys. This gets Rendell thinking, and while Luke is making sure that Ellie realizes that he finds her beautiful, Rendell calls them down for a chat. He then explains that they've done everything possible with the keys over the past few years, but now that the Hannes Riffle rule is about to kick in, they should do something that they've never done. They should open the black door and let a demon come through it. Locke Key Volume 5, Clockwork's issue number 4, The Whispering Iron. Rendell continues explaining his plan to his friends and says that the problem isn't opening the black door. It arises when you look at it because it seduces you into walking through it. He then explains the demons on the other side of the door and explains that they are like tapeworms for the soul. They attach to people that walk through and take over them, but if no one walks through, they are drawn to our realm. But when they pass through the portal, they turn into metal, a metal that is called the Whispering Iron. He then explains that keys made using this metal always do what they are designed to do, meaning they can use it to create a new key for themselves if they get it. The idea enamors Kim, and Rendell explains that they will create a key that allows them to carry some amount of magic with them. They will create a glamour key, a key that always makes people see the best in them, just like they looked at them today after the play. Mark Cho doesn't know about the Hans Riffle rule, so Erin Voss explains that Hans was the last person to make whispering iron keys in the key house. He made a key for the front door that enchanted it, which means that any adult who walks through the door wouldn't be able to experience magic. It's a way to keep the keys from falling into the wrong hands and from being used in wars. Ellie thinks that making people like them using magic would be cheating, but Rendell explains that using enchanted items during the play was also cheating, and that this is no different than that. Rendell calls for a vote, and everyone votes yes. Once the decision is made, Rendell says that they will carry out this plan next weekend, giving him enough time to drain the cave so they can access the black door. We then see all of them walking out, and Kim even begs Mark to forgive him, but when they are gone, Erin questions why Rendell didn't ask for a vote from Kim. She knows that he is doing this out of love. Rendell sighs and explains that even though he loves Kim, they aren't meant to be. They will go to different colleges, and he knows Kim isn't the kind for long-distance relationships. He then walks out, saying that Erin wouldn't understand because she hasn't been in love, completely oblivious to the fact that she has been in love with him for all these years. Over the next week, Duncan probes everyone for answers. He wants to know where they are going and what they plan on doing. Everyone refuses to answer him, but Dodge, being a nice person, ends up revealing that they are going to the drowning cave. We also see that when he was talking to Kim, he touched her Anywhere key bracelet and took the key from it. And so, on the day of the expedition, Duncan starts following them, but gets told off by Rendell quite rudely. He seemingly goes back to the key house, and as the friends talk, we learn that they are bringing all the magical items along with them, because Rendell doesn't want to take any chances. He has only seen the black door in memories and in the past, using the time shift key. He hasn't been this deep in the cave before. When he mentions the time shift key, Erin jokes that maybe his children might be spying on him right now using the key. But instead of laughing, Rendell takes this seriously. He turns around, bows down, and orders his children not to make the same mistakes as him. This is when we see that Duncan is still following them, and when he reveals himself, he gets told off by Rendell once again. Dodge decides to escort Duncan out of the cave, but Duncan isn't about to let this go so easily. He is too curious about what they plan on doing, so he threatens to tell Dad about them if Dodge doesn't tell him what they are planning. Reluctantly, Dodge tells him about Whispering Iron, but not before making Duncan swear that he won't come down in the cave for the rest of the day. Duncan seemingly leaves, and the conversation upon Dodge's return reveals that Duncan is the one who always keeps finding the keys. This is another safety mechanism of the house. It reveals keys to only those kids with no malice in their hearts. This is when, on the subject of malice, it is revealed that Ellie wanted to murder her mother even back then. As they walk past various doors with numbers in descending order, they fail to notice the door labelled number 1 opening slightly. They reach the stairs, the same stairs where Kinsey almost drowned a few issues ago, and begin their descent. This is when Mark Cho decides to write their names on the wall under the title Keepers of the Keys, followed by Friends, forever after all the names as well as the year. Luke tells Mark to write Dodge as his middle name because that is what Ellie calls him, and this is when Ellie notices that Mark has written her name after Rendell's and not Kim's, and he reveals he knows about her feelings for Rendell. What she fails to notice is that he has written his name between Dodge and Ellie's. Duncan then uses the Crown of Shadows to clear away the rubble, and they finally reach the black door. It has the number 11 on it and is surrounded by black eyes. Rendell explains that the door was hidden in plain sight intentionally, and after initially locking it using a padlock, Benjamin decided to make a door and an appropriate integrated lock for it. Benjamin also discovered that if the door was opened using any other key, it would simply lead to another section of the caves. It was even used as storage space during World War II by oblivious soldiers. This is when we see someone approaching the group from behind with the Anywhere key in hand. The next panel reveals that it is Duncan who is sneaking up on the group, and it was he who entered through door number 1 using the Anywhere key. Rendell and Dodge decide to open the black door. The plan is that Rendell will open the lock and keep his eyes closed, and Dodge will look away from the door while keeping his hand on Rendell's back to guide him. They open the door, but this is when Duncan peeks out of the corner and is mesmerized by the door, and only Dodge can see this happening. He begins to walk towards the portal, and, in an attempt to stop him from going through Dodge, loses his grip over Rendell and his hand slips through the portal. The demons instantly latch onto him, and Zack, Dodge, or Luke, as we know him today, finally appears in front of them as Duncan looks at the portal with amazement. Locke Key Volume 5, Clockworks Issue Number 5, Grown-Ups. Kim quickly flies away with Duncan while Rendell orders the shadows to close the door and get a hold of Dodge. Dodge pretends to be Luke, pretends that the shadows are hurting him, and Ellie screams for Rendell to stop hurting him. Kim scolds Duncan for being nosy and stealing the Anywhere key from her, but when the kid cries and says he would kill himself if anything happened to Dodge, she consoles him and hugs him. The shadows let go of Dodge, and he pretends that the demons almost had it for a moment. He then puts up an act of being scared and terrified, and when Erin asks him what it felt like touching the demons, he says it was like putting your hand in freezing water. Ellie is weeping and she wants to leave the cave now. She still thinks this is Luke, but we know better, and it seems that Rendell and the others did too, because that night when Dodge tries to threaten him with an axe, it is revealed that the other friends are in the room and that they were expecting him. Mark uses the shadows to restrain Dodge, and that is when Rendell reveals that they knew he had been turned when he said that the touch of the demons felt ice cold. That was a lie. Erin spotted it. She and Rendell had studied Benjamin Locke's diaries, which explained in detail what the demons do. When one touches the demons, it feels good. They swap your emotions. Pain feels good, and hate feels like love. Dodge then tries to rile up Erin for having spotted his life. He calls out her love for Rendell, says that he would never be with her, and that's because of her race. Erin isn't affected by this, and the friends proceed to do the only thing they can. They take out all the memories from Dodge's head, all the memories of the past 3 years, and all the memories related to the keys. They store them in jars, and Rendell knows the perfect place to protect them. They decide to research as much as they can. Maybe there's a way to reverse this process. Meanwhile, Rendell chides himself for being selfish. He now understands why the keys only reveal themselves to innocent kids. It's because they just want to play with them. Meanwhile, adults like him and his friends use the keys to gain something and end up hurting themselves. He orders everyone to keep a key on themselves at all times in case Dodge decides to attack them, but Ellie refuses to take any key or magical item. She simply storms out of the key house. They let her go because it's too late and everyone needs some rest now. When everyone is gone, Kim tries to invite Rendell to bed, but he bluntly refuses and Kim leaves without saying another word. We then see Rendell place Dodge's memories in the well house where his mum's echo resides. 2 weeks later, we see Dodge is living his life as normal, albeit he has turned into a rude, offensive and abusive fiend. He treats his new girlfriend like an object, and when Ellie tries to talk to him, he spits food in her face. This is when his new girlfriend reveals that he used to date Ellie, and Dodge furiously demands all the details. Erin, Rendell and Mark discuss what Ellie's going through, and it is revealed that she spends most evenings sitting by Dodge's memories in the well house. Rendell has also started hating the key house because he lost his best friend because of it. So Erin offers to research Benjamin Locke's diaries with him in the library, because she is heartbroken, and naturally Ellie goes for a run. She reaches the well house where she once again sits beside Dodge's memories, staring at the ones he shared with her. She wishes they could have left at least one of their memories in his head, but Mrs. Locke explains that the demon would have used it as ammo against her. In her opinion, Rendell should have completely wiped Dodge's memories. This is when Dodge shows up at the well house. He has been following Ellie after what his new girlfriend told him. This is when Mrs. Locke steps between the two of them to protect Ellie. She is about to contact Rendell using the echoes, but when Ellie realizes that Mrs. Locke will harm Dodge, Ellie pushes her. Mrs. Locke's echo stumbles over the well house door and fades away. One of the jars Ellie was holding smashes against the ground, and the Dodge in the memory gets stabbed by a shard of glass. This is when Dodge holds Ellie by the hair and demands answers from her, and we see that all of Dodge's versions in his memory have now changed and have become extremely violent. Locke Key Volume 5, Clockworks, Issue number 6. Curtain. One of Dodge's memories murders Ellie in the memory, and Dodge puts it in his head using the head key. He has poured most of his memories back into his head, while an incapacitated Ellie lies beside him in the well house. This is when Duncan shows up and sees what is happening. He has used the gender key and is a girl right now. He runs away when he sees Dodge, and while he stalks Duncan in the key house, we see Mark talking to Ellie's mother. He learns Ellie is probably in the well house and decides to check on his friend. However, when he reaches the well house, he sees that the door is open, and when he looks inside, he sees Dodge's dancing memories on top of Ellie's incapacitated body. Mark quickly puts 2 and 2 together and opens his backpack. We then see that Dodge has spotted Mark from the key house while he holds Duncan by the throat. Realizing that he needs to do something quickly, an idea pops into his mind when he sees the gender key in Duncan's hand. Mark sends the mechanical owl to inform the rest of his friends of what has happened. He then wears the crown of shadows and orders all the shadows to bring Dodge to him. However, when the shadows drag Dodge to him, Dodge is naked and has now turned into a girl. Mark hasn't lost his virginity yet, so seeing a naked Dodge arouses him. He gets momentarily distracted and ashamed when Dodge points out his erection, and Dodge uses this opportunity to stab Mark in the chest. Erin and Rendell have fallen asleep in the library while researching, and this is when Kim shows up to join them. However, their conversation is interrupted when the mechanical owl shows up at the window. Rendell knows something is wrong. Meanwhile, Dodge has dressed himself and has taken the crown of shadows for himself. He kicks and twists his foot in Mark's wound and demands to know the keeper of the Omega Key. In his last moments, Mark weakens and demands to see Ellie if Dodge wants his answer. Dodge orders the Centurion Shadow to bring Ellie over and then to keep watch over Mark and Ellie and protect them. Dodge has done his part of the deal, so Mark tells him that all the keys are with Erin because Rendell hates the keys ever since Dodge was turned. He then orders the Shadows to bring Duncan to him and then uses the wellhouse key to enter it. He puts the key in a jar, unlocks his head using the head key, pulls out a part of himself and places it in the jar. He then writes the words "break in case of emergency" jar, along with a note attached to the key that reads "Lock Well House. Say my sweet name." He then orders one of the shadows to hide the jar in Ellie's house, and this part of him will act as a reset for him. Mark dies moments later. Glad that he could spend his last moments with Ellie, And this is when Kim, Rendell, and Erin show up at the scene. They're glad to find Ellie still breathing, and when Rendell sees that Dodge has written in blood that he wants the Omega Key in exchange for Duncan, he knows that the game is on. They all meet Dodge in front of the black door. Rendell is wearing the Herculean amulet, but Dodge threatens him that if Rendell tries anything, he will choke Duncan to death. This is when Erin pulls out the hypnotizing music box as Kim swoops in to rescue Duncan using the angel wings. She almost gets Duncan to safety, but this is when a shadow grabs her by the hair and slams her hard against the rock wall. This knocks her out, and Dodge reveals that he knew they would try something like this, which is why he was prepared for it. He had shadows in his ear to prevent him from listening to anything. Rendell begins to punch the cave walls in order to trap them all and block off the black door, but the shadows restrain him. He demands the Omega Key from Erin, but she tells him that she didn't bring it here for obvious reasons. He then decides to use the head key on her to get the Omega Key's location, and this is when Ellie comes back to consciousness. She sees that Mark has died, but also finds a crumpled note for her where Mark has written his final goodbye to her. He also tells Ellie about the hidden entrance to the black door behind the well house, and that she can still help her friends. Ellie takes the mechanical owl and rushes towards the trapdoor, and this is when we see what's happening down in the cave. Rendell is completely restrained, shadows are preventing the cave from falling apart, and Dodge has almost emptied Erin's head for the Omega Key's location. It turns out that she doesn't know where it is, which means that Mark lied. This is when Ellie shows up and uses the mechanical owl to take away the crown of shadows. Rendell instantly leaps and saves Duncan and Erin from the falling rubble. Dodge is trapped under the huge rocks, but even as he dies, he can't help but enjoy the pain. Sadly, Erin's memories are lost too, and she sees nothing but white in her head, which is also all she can say. A weeping Rendell leaves the cave and vows to drown it and never to return to it again. A few days later, Ellie and Rendell meet at the Key House pond. Rendell throws the head key in the pond, and through their conversation, we learn that he is going to the West Coast tomorrow and doesn't plan to return to Lovecraft ever. This is also when he decided to become a school counselor to prevent other kids from hurting themselves or others. It is also revealed that Rendell has a small piece of whispering iron that he managed to grab in the cave when Dodge was first infected. He tried to destroy, but the stuff is impossible to destroy, and though he can't make a key out of it, he thinks he might make a fishhook. Ellie is already forgetting things, forgetting about magic and all that has happened, and Rendell says that it's a good thing. They should forget things if they want to have a normal life. The two part ways with heavy hearts. This is when we see Kinsey and Tyler's spectral forms in the background. They then leave this time, return to their own, and simply walk back to their bedrooms without speaking to each other. Kinsey cries while staring at the picture of her father. Zach, as Bodhi, stares hungrily at the Omega Key in his room, and Tyler stares at the fishing hook on his cap that his father gave him. Locke Key Volume 6, Omega Issue 1. Our Regrets. Bodhi, aka Zach, uses the giant key and finds the crown of shadows on top of the nearby lighthouse. He steals it, and when the lighthouse keeper's family spots him, Zach destroys the house. The next morning, while Scott is trying to film Tyler for his upcoming documentary, everybody discovers that the lighthouse is broken and rushes to it. Tyler is compiling seniors' replies to the question, "What would tell your younger self if you ever met them?" The interview is interrupted by the commotion, and when Tyler and Scott see it, they can't help but wonder if the people inside managed to escape. Bodhi uses the Crown of Shadows to use the pumps to drain the cave where the black door lies. The pumps are protected by magic so that no living person can operate them. The shadows turn on the pump, and the water level in the cave slowly begins to drop. We then see Scott filming various seniors, including Brinker, and through these conversations we learn that he will show this tape at the rave that will happen after the prom. Scott even gets a kiss on the head from one of the seniors, which greatly annoys Jackie. Jordan's confession reveals that she has been a troubled child ever since her parents' divorce. She has burned a car down, almost burned her dormitory down, and if there was one advice she would give to her younger self, then it could be to commit one good act each day so that after some time you would have developed a habit of doing good. Zach watches eagerly and waits for the water to drain from the cave with all of the keys that the Locke children have found to date. This is when Tyler's interview shows up, and Tyler ends up revealing his true regrets, how he never wanted to be a buzzkill because everyone called him a student counsellor just like his dad, and he hated that. So much so, he didn't stop Kinsey from going for a drive with a drunk jock when she was 15. He didn't want to be the buzzkill. Unfortunately, the guy ended up crashing the car, and he suffered only minor injuries. It was Kinsey who was hurt the most. She had to be taken to a hospital. After this event, Rendell had grounded Tyler and cancelled his plans of going to Baja, and that is the day he wished for his death. Wished for a time his father wouldn't be in his life and never talked to him that day until Sam Lesser killed his father. Scott stops filming because this doesn't need to go in the documentary. He understands how Tyler feels, so he encourages him to not be so harsh on himself. Everyone makes mistakes. He then leaves, and we see Tyler is learning to cast molten iron with Duncan. Duncan tells him that his dad loved him, and then they go back to casting. Ominously, Tyler's hat with the whispering iron fishhook lies right next to the mould. As Scott is filming, Kinsey approaches and forces Scott to record her confession even though she isn't a senior. Instead, she uses this opportunity to apologise to all her friends and express that she misses them all dearly. When a crying Kinsey is heading back to the manor, we see Nina Locke offer her daughter a hug. Nina looks a lot better now and seems to have taken up gardening. On the way back from the Key House, Scott ponders his life's decisions and decides to get a tattoo. His choice of tattoo took the entire day to complete. The next day, he walks up to Jamal and asks him to film his confession. Jamal reluctantly agrees. Just like Kinsey, Scott uses this opportunity to apologise to his friend. His $1,000 tattoo is an anatomically correct heart with the words, "Ready to live, ready to die for, love, friends and art." The friends are back together again, and this is when the water has been completely drained out of the cave. Zach walks by his old decomposing dead body and orders one of the shadows to take care of it. After all, he doesn't want anyone getting scared at the rave after prom. He then finds the black door and thinks that he has already won the battle. Locke Key Volume 6, Omega Issue 2. The Soldier. Rufus visits the Key House along with his new counselor, Mr. Gibbs. Nina Locke opens the door and Rufus greets her and tells her that he's going away to Boston and wants to say goodbye to Bodhi and Kinsey before he leaves. Unlike before, Rufus no longer uses military lingo and speaks in perfect sentences. Mr. Gibbs informs her that Rufus will be in a group home with his own bedroom, plenty of food, and access to top-tier education. Tyler and Duncan are fixing Duncan's Mustang in the background, and when Nina asks for Bodhi and Kinsey's whereabouts, he informs them that they are down by the sea. Duncan offers to get them, while Nina invites Rufus and Mr. Gibbs inside for iced tea. Rufus stares at the stained glass window on the ceiling, and this is when Bodhi's ghost appears before him. Rufus greets Bodhi and asks why he isn't wearing any clothes, and Bodhi is over the moon when he realises that Rufus can see and hear him. He quickly tells Rufus all about Dodge, how he framed Sam Lesser by switching bodies, and that he currently occupies Bodhi's real body while forcing him to be a ghost. He asks Rufus to be tactical about the situation, begs him not to be rash, but Rufus has tried the cautious way before, and he ended up losing his mother. And so this time he's going to take matters into his own hands. This is when Kinsey and Zach in Bodhi's body show up to meet him, and instantly, Rufus begins to strangle Zach. Kinsey is unable to pull Rufus off of Bodhi, and Tyler has to come in and smack Rufus across the head with a tire iron. Detective Matuku and Mr. Gibbs then take Rufus to the McClellan Psychiatric Hospital, but before Matuku leaves, he questions Rufus. He wants to know why he attacked Bodhi. Rufus thinks for a moment, then holds up his action figure and says that after scientific analysis, he has determined that the target is not human. Hence, he needs to be destroyed immediately. Thinking that he is speaking gibberish, the nurses and Mr. Gibbs escort him away, but before he leaves, he tells Detective Matuku that if someone is going to stop him, it has to be soon. He already has what he wants, and this gets the detective thinking. We then see the Locke children and Duncan playing by the sea, which is when Nina Locke checks up on Tyler. He doesn't feel great about hitting a mentally disabled child, but she tells him to look on the bright side. He saved Bodhi from another attack. He has been there for him always, and she loves him more than ever for that. She is also carrying a sobriety coin for completing 30 days. And Tyler tells her that he loves her more than ever for doing right by herself. Rufus is playing in his room with his robot toy and is currently fiddling with its wires. But in his head, he is fixing the robot companion while being locked in a prison. His companion says that these wires aren't just wires. They're his key out of this place. He is then waiting outside Mr. Gibbs' office for his counselling session when we see Erin Voss sitting beside him. He is talking to his robot in his head, but in reality, he is doing both the voices, and the robot tells him to contact Bodhi on how to stop Dodge. And when Erin hears him say "stop Dodge," she realises that he is an ally. Kinsey, meanwhile, is showing her prom dress to Tyler, who says it looks beautiful, but she doesn't believe him. It is also revealed that she is going to the prom with Jamal. Kinsey wants Tyler to come as well, seeing as he's the senior, and not her, but Tyler has outgrown his school life. He's having fun fixing Duncan's charger, and this is when Kinsey interrupts him and promises to beat Jordan up. Tyler tells her to focus on herself, and then she notices the fishing hook is missing from his cap. Kinsey doesn't really know that it's made of whispering iron, and Tyler decides not to reveal this to her, at least not now. We then see Rufus's counselling session. Gibbs reveals to him that he won't be leaving the hospital anytime soon, and will likely stay in the lockdown wing for a year or two. He then asks about Rufus's life with Zach, his relationship with him, and other family members. Though Rufus doesn't reveal the nasty details, his memories reveal a different story. Zach was sleeping with Ellie while dating Kinsey. He would openly call Rufus a retard and sleep with Ellie in front of him. His grandmother would regularly burn him using her cigarettes, and it was only his mum who was ever nice to him. She was the best, but that was until Zach showed up and started living with them. Back at the Key house, Jackie, Scott and Jamal arrived to take Kinsey to the prom, and surprisingly, Jackie is dressed like a man, while Scott is dressed like a woman. Scott asks Nina for a dance playfully, and Jamal tells her that Jackie lost a bet, and that's why she has to dress like this. Jamal and Kinsey kiss, and this is when Nina Locke asks Scott to bring all of them back from the prom straight here. She doesn't want Kinsey to go to senior after parties. Simultaneously, back at the hospital, Rufus uses the wires in his robot to overload the electric lock on his door and escape. He imagines the nurses as dinosaur guards and escapes around them, but when he reaches for the exit, he is caught by a nurse wheeling Erin Voss around. She runs after Rufus, but this is when Erin trips her and helps Rufus escape. She says, "Go stop Dodge," with a huge smile on her face. Rufus escapes, but when he worries about navigating back to the Key house in his imagination, the robot lifts its helmet, and it is revealed that he imagines his mum is operating the mech. She will always be by his side, and she believes in him. This gives Rufus the courage to climb a nearby tree and jump over the boundary wall. Locke Key Volume 6, Omega Issue 3, Last Dance. It's night and Nina is almost asleep, but Bodhi knows that this is when his mother is able to see and hear him. Ghost Bodhi tries to warn his mother and get her attention, which is when she wakes up. When she turns around, Zach in Bodhi's body wearing the crown of shadows is leaving the house. She thinks this Bodhi and tries to stop him, but Zach simply tells her that he can't stay. He needs to slit some throats and invite some friends over from the other side. Nina tries to force him to stop, but this is when shadows pin her down. Zach has the shadows tear off her shirt and force her to drink wine until she passes out. Tyler is in the garage with Duncan staring at the piece of whispering iron hidden inside the fishing hook, and this is when Duncan and he start talking about Rendell and all his secrets. Duncan reassures Tyler that his brother hid his life in Lovecraft to shield them from all the horrors. He kept secrets so they could experience freedom like he never could. They then talk about girls, and Duncan forces Tyler to go to the prom night. He even bought him a pink dress shirt as a joke. Tyler changes his shirt and goes to the school, but the shadows attack Duncan in the garage once he is gone. At the prom, Scott tries to give the homecoming queen speech, only for Jamal to then cover him in blood and gore using a bucket that was planted at the top as a prank. The prank was successful, but none of the seniors in the crowd reacted to it, and this is further proof to Jamal and Scott that their brand of fun is just different from the rest. This is when Tyler catches up with Jordan, who is on the school grounds. She reveals that she wants to burn the $8,000 dress that her dad gifted her for prom because he is forcing her to go to a school she doesn't want to attend. Tyler begins flirting with her, and Jordan confesses that she cheated on him because he was catching feelings, and catching feelings in high school is like thinking you can fly a 747 when you only really know how to fly a kite. They burn her dress, Tyler removes his shirt, and the two hook up. Kinsey, Scott, Jamal and Jackie reach the Key house, and it is revealed that the boys will let the girls stay at the house while the two of them go join the rave. After the premiere of his documentary, Scott and Jamal will return to spend time with them, doing as Nina Locke told them. However, when Kinsey opens the door slightly, she sees her mother sprawled on the ground and decides to go inside on her own. When she sees the wine bottles beside her, Kinsey thinks her mother has relapsed. Nina tries to tell her that she was forced to drink, but she is in no state to form coherent sentences. Kinsey cries, tells Nina that she hates her, and then goes back outside pretending as though nothing happened. She makes the excuse that her mother is sleeping, which is why they all should go to the rave. Jamal and Scott want to check in with Kinsey's mother, but she forces them not to, and so the four of them make their way to the drowning cave, which is now packed to the brim with teenagers. After Tyler and Jordan have finished, they have some pillow talk before eventually getting dressed and agreeing to meet up at the rave. Tyler heads back home to change his shirt, and Jordan heads there immediately. But before they part, they share an intimate hug. However, when Tyler tries to search for his old shirt in the garage, he is attacked by the shadows, and they slam his face into a nearby window which knocks him out. Locke Key Volume 6, Omega Issue 4, Human Sacrifices. Nina Locke is desperately trying to get to the phone. In her drunken state, she can hear and see Bodhi's ghost, but after seeing living shadows, she feels that is enough for today. She thinks that she is hallucinating and swipes Bodhi's ghost away while trying to get to the phone. Meanwhile, back in the garage, Duncan comes to his nephew's rescue and saves him using the light he was using while repairing the charger. The two of them jump inside the boot where it's bright enough for the shadows not to attack them. This is when Tyler tells him about the magic of the key house, about the shadows, and Duncan vaguely remembers the shadows. He always thought they were make-believe memories from the time he was a kid. Tyler explains that adults are destined to forget all about magic once they are older. Duncan believes his nephew, but this is when one of the shadows pulls the plug to the light. We then see Jordan arriving at the party while Brinker woos ladies using his songs. Kinsey kisses Jamal while Scott is busy projecting his movie on the big wall. Jordan greets Kinsey and slyly tells her that she and Tyler hooked up again, and that he should be here soon. This is when Zach emerges from the deep end of the cave and begins screaming for help. Kinsey, Jamal, Scott, Jordan, and a few more students rush to his aid. And as they follow him deeper, Zach makes up a story about how Nina got violent after being drunk, and both Duncan and she tried to hit Bodhi. As they reach the catwalk that was supposed to be broken, Kinsey begins to doubt his story more and more when he says Duncan chased him into the cave and fell down the stairs, which broke his legs. This is when Jackie stops Kinsey and tells her to think this through. Things don't add up. And who fixed the stairs? Zach wears the crown of shadows and reveals that he did, but Kinsey knows that he wasn't supposed to find the crown, and even if he did, why didn't he use it to bring Duncan out of the cave? Zach ends up breaking character, forcing him to do things the hard way. Shadows rise from the deep end of the cave and attack everyone, and during this process, the section of the catwalk leading outside breaks away. Jordan manages to hang on. Brinker and his date fall into the pit, while the shadow gorilla that is attacking them takes Jackie away. We then see Rufus on a bus to Lovecraft, and there's a passenger staring at him. He thinks she's going to report him, but she instead offers her help to him. She will help him get down at the Lovecraft station, which is only 2 stops away. This is when Nina decides to talk to Bodhi again, and he tells her that the spirit inside his body was a bad man and that it wasn't him. He knows she has suspected this for weeks. He then helps his mother get up by becoming a crutch, but tells her that she did it on her, lets her believe that she doesn't need a crutch to walk around. Nina reaches for the phone and calls Detective Matuku. This is when Tyler and Duncan leap out of the trunk with flares in hand and quickly turn on every light in the garage. Thankfully, the garage has its own circuit breaker, so the shadows won't be able to ambush them like last time, and this is when Duncan realizes that his nephew has been fighting these forces for a long time. When Duncan asks what the shadows want, this is when Tyler realizes that half of the school is in the drowning cave near the black door and quickly puts 2 and 2 together. Kinsey meanwhile helps Jordan up on the catwalk, while Scott screams for his friend to escape and tell everyone to get out of the cave. But when Scott realizes Jackie has been taken, he voluntarily loosens his grip and falls into the darkness. The shadows begin attacking again. They choke Jamal and try to carry Kinsey away, but this is when Jordan pulls out her can of fuel that she used to burn her dress, breaks a gas lamp, and uses it to keep the shadows away, saving Jamal and Kinsey in the process. Detective Matuku and his fellow officer arrive at the key house, but a huge shadow gorilla is blocking their way. Realizing that the gorilla could easily wreck the car, Tyler rushes to their aid with 2 flares. Unfortunately, the officer fires at the gorilla just when Tyler is about to jump through it with the flares, and the bullet ends up hitting him in the chest. The students, meanwhile, try to run out of the cave, only to be greeted by 2 huge shadow centurions blocking their way. They then begin breaking down the cave walls, ultimately blocking the only known exit out of there. Locke Key Volume 6, Omega, Issue 5, The Fall. Kinsey, Jamal and Jordan fight off the shadows on the catwalk with makeshift torches when Mandy Sawyer and the rest of the students show up. They are being escorted by the shadows downstairs, and Mandy tells them that the entrance is blocked and some of the students died under the rubble. When the shadows try to take them deeper into the cave, Mandy refuses, and this is when Kinsey begs them to do as they are told. None of them know what the shadows are capable of, but Mandy doesn't listen. She fights back, gathers her courage and screams at her shadow. Her date joins her as well, but the next thing you know, she is dismembered in the air while her date is sliced in half. Some of the others panic and try to run, but they are killed off one by one as well. Kinsey is horrified by the entire ordeal, and Jamal asks her to look away and focus on Tyler. He'll be here to help them any time now, but Tyler is on the surface at the doorsteps of the key house, bleeding to death while Detective Matuku tries to stabilize him. This is when the shadows decapitate his fellow officer, but just when Matuku is about to accept his fate, Duncan shows up and saves him from the shadows. Duncan is covered in lights from head to toe, and while he fights the shadows, he orders the detective to carry Tyler back into the house. Nina opens the door, and upon seeing that Tyler has been shot, she begins to cry immediately. She informs them that the power to the house has been cut off, the phone is dead, and Matuku's phone is back in his car. Nina begs for Tyler not to die because she can't lose him too. He was the only one holding the family together, and this is when she realizes that she can fix him. She can use the mending cabinet, and she forces Matuku and Duncan to follow her plan. Kinsey, Jamal and Jordan realize that their torches will run out soon, but Kinsey is more puzzled by the fact that most of the students who go down into the cave are screaming. Going through the black door is supposed to make you happy, so she can't figure out what Dodge is planning or doing to the students. Jordan freaks out because she doesn't know what the 2 of them are talking about, but quickly backs away into a corner when Erin Voss's memories crawl out of a nearby pipe. This is when Jamal removes his pants and decides to burn them to buy them some more time and light. However, the next thing you know, they are ambushed by Scott, who is wearing the Herculean amulet. He taunts the 2 of them, and then Jackie soon appears in the air. She is flying because she is wearing the angel wings. The 2 make vile comments on their friends, and it's clear that Dodge has sent them through the back door, and that now they have demons attached to their spirits. Jamal tries to fight back, but this is when Scott grabs him by the throat and slams him into a wall. Kinsey begs for mercy, and this is when Jackie reveals that their task isn't to kill them. After all, this choice is supposed to be their own, according to Dodge. Back in the key house, Nina leads Matuku and Duncan to the mending cabinet, and though Matuku is quite apprehensive of what she plans on doing, she tells her that they are being attacked by living shadows, so he should believe her this time. Nina shoves Tyler into the medicine cabinet, and when she turns the key, we see Tyler waking up. Someone from the other side of the door tells him a knock-knock joke, and when he opens the door, he is greeted by his dad in spectral form. His dad asks for a hug, but Tyler thinks that he is dead, which is why he gets to see him now. And this is the worst time to be dead, when his siblings and mum need him the most. He then ends up blaming his father for all the mess they are in, and his father explains that he is in the mending cabinet, which isn't where you go when you die. In a few moments, his mother will open the door and he will get to go back to the real world. His father then confesses that he was locked by his guilt, which made him always look for the easy way. It was the same case when he tried to fix Dodge the easy way by removing his memories. There was another way to fix him, because keys turned both ways, and this is the biggest clue his father is ever going to offer Tyler. He then tells Tyler that he was always smarter than him, always morally courageous, while his father was only physically courageous, which was an easy thing to do. Before Tyler can profess his love for his father, Rendell pushes his son back in the cabinet and closes the door. Simultaneously, Nina opens the door in the real world, and Matuku is stunned to see that the bullet hole in Tyler's chest has vanished, even his shirt has been fixed. Nina then scolds him and then hugs him for getting shot. She then creates a new family rule: nobody gets shot. This is when Jackie and Scott reveal the deal Dodge is offering Kinsey, Jamal and Scott. One of the three has to die. One will be taken through the black door, and the third will live a bit longer, albeit only to serve Dodge and his chosen ones. They have 5 minutes to decide who dies, and if they don't, Dodge will bring this catwalk down, which will kill all three of them. This is when Jackie and Scott leave. Jamal and Kinsey are in shambles, but Jordan calmly tells them that she is the one who should die. Kinsey reassures her that she'd rather all three of them die, and Jordan confesses that she wanted to be friends with Kinsey. Kinsey is an awesome kid, and she would have been a good influence on her. Kinsey kisses Jordan on the forehead and tells her to hang on to hope and simply wait for Tyler. She heard her wish of doing a good thing each day in the movie, and Kinsey promises that she will open a club with her called the Do a Good Deed a Day Club. Jordan can be president and boss people around. Jordan smiles, seemingly agrees, and even stops smoking when Kinsey tells her that she shouldn't smoke. She then says, why not start doing a good deed each day from today? And this is the last they hear from Jordan, because when Jamal and Kinsey turn around, Jordan is nowhere to be seen. Locke Key Volume 7, Alpha Issue Number 1, Turning Both Ways. Duncan and Tyler fight the shadows in their house while Tyler desperately tries to reach the foundry, knowing what needs to be done. Nina tries to save them using a flare, but gets punched by one of the shadows. Detective Matuku saves her using a makeshift torch he made from her crutch, only to then be stabbed through the chest by a shadow centurion. The torch lights his body on fire as Nina desperately fights the shadows using it. They lift her into the air, and all her wild swinging of the torch lights one of the paintings on fire. Duncan helps Tyler escape, and this is when we see Kinsey and Jamal spending their last moments together. They are about to kiss, but this is when Jackie appears and uses a chain to lift them into the air by their necks. She carries them down, and soon they realize what happened to the rest of the children. They have been stuck to the ceiling of the cave using the shadows, and some of them are missing their eyeballs. They find Jordan's smashed body on the rocks, and Scott taunts them that even though they call him a demon, it didn't even take 2 minutes for them to push Jordan to her death. The two of them are taken to Dodge, who sits on a pile of whispering iron while being surrounded by other possessed students, including Brinker Martin. He then reveals that the plan was never to bring all his kind through. The plan was to bring only his family through and kill the rest of them so that he could accumulate whispering iron, all because he wants to make more keys, this time keys that will serve his agenda. Duncan, meanwhile, is crawling on the ground while being ravaged by shadows when he finally manages to reach the garage. This is when he sees Tyler making a new custom key using the whispering iron that his dad left him. This is when Rufus reaches the key house, but a huge shadow wolf tries to kill him when he gets inside. Thankfully, Nina Locke is in Matuku's car, and she quickly pulls him to safety. Rufus reveals that he tried to kill Zach and not Bodhi, and Nina now realizes that the kid tried to help them. The key house is on fire, but unfortunately, the shadows have already destroyed Detective Matuku's laptop and cell phone, so there's no way to call anyone for help. Back in the cave, Kinsey is baffled that Dodge will kill his own kind for whispering iron, but Dodge scoffs at her and tells her that there are no morals in the realm he comes from. His mother ate half of his brothers when they were born, then his father ate her, and when it was finally time, Dodge ate his father. He then reveals that he now likes the mortal world better. He likes being in this world more, and he has evolved. And what's more is managing his entire kind would have been another war that he didn't want to fight, which is why he brought only his family through the door. This is another thing he learned from the Lockes. Families stick together, which is why he is now making one of his own. Of course, he still needs an army, and for that he's going to do what he did to Ellie. He is simply going to place his will inside people's heads using the head key, and they will become his slaves. And the ones he truly hates, he will take all their memories away and turn them into husks, like he did with Erin Voss. He also let Duncan live because he needs him. Duncan knows how to make keys, and he is going to force Duncan to do his dirty work until he dies. Dodge then reveals his plan to make a god key that will replace all the gods in the world with him. He plans to make an eternal life key that will grant eternal life at the cost of subservience to Dodge and his family. People will flock to this miracle, and those who resist, he will burn them to the ground. Tyler sees that his mother is sound asleep asleep in the car with Rufus and decides to leave her alone, but Rufus notices him and decides to follow. He watches Tyler climb down into the cave, and this is when Dodge offers Kinsey and Jamal the choice. One of them can become his slave, while the other one can join the family. Jamal doesn't want Kinsey to be turned into a slave, but Kinsey stops him. This is exactly what Dodge wants. He wants to find ways to keep torturing them, and she tells him to kiss her instead. They kiss, and this angers Dodge, and he yanks Kinsey away from Jamal. This is when Scott informs Dodge that Tyler is on his way through the hatch, and Dodge reveals that he is awaiting Tyler. He has planned for every move this time. Ellie managed to get the better of him using the hatch all those years ago, but that won't happen tonight. Tyler enters and is quickly stopped by Scott and the shadows. Surprisingly, they don't find anything on him, no keys and no weapons. He's here all by himself, and Dodge assumes that he might be here to trade for Kinsey's life, but it's too late for that now. He then reveals that he is here to save Luke instead of Kinsey, and Dodge laughs in his face. According to him, he has already been saved. He was saved the day he stepped through the black door. Ever since then, he has experienced nothing but bliss and glory. This is when Kinsey willingly chooses the door, but the chance to make a choice is long gone. Kinsey and Jamal decided to kiss when they had to make the choice, so instead, Dodge decided to make Kinsey his slave and make Jamal a part of his family. Tyler taunts Dodge again, and this angers him to the point that he gropes Kinsey as a show of defiance. But this is when Erin Voss's memories appear. They snatch away the head key from him and then remove the crown of shadows from his head. This is when Tyler removes the new key that he forged from under his hat and uses it on Scott. The key separates the demon from the spirit, but an unfortunate side effect is that after the demon dies, it turns into whispering iron, which is why Scott feels like his insides are on fire. Scott is back to himself, but in a lot of pain, and Dodge is too angry when Tyler reveals what he just did to Scott. Scott begins to leak whispering iron from his eyes, and the only thing keeping him upright now is the Herculean amulet. Dodge calls Tyler a cheater and unleashes his family upon all the survivors, but Jamal jumps into action and knocks out Brinker while Kinsey takes on Jackie. Scott takes care of the rest of them, and the one attacking Tyler gets the anti-demon key used on her. Dodge escapes through the hatch, and seconds later, Kinsey manages to knock out Jackie. As Jamal, Scott, and Kinsey decide to help the other trapped students, we see Tyler go after Dodge through the hatch. This is when Duncan wakes up Nina, and though the house is burning, she is more angry at Duncan for letting Tyler go in the caves on his own. When Dodge gets out, he picks up a rock and hits Tyler in the head to keep him away, while promising to come back once he has formed a new plan. But this is when Rufus picks him up and subdues him. Rufus then gets the echo key from the pouch around Dodge's neck, opens the well house door and walks through it. That's it! Dodge is destroyed, but sadly Bodhi doesn't come back to life. Nina weeps over the loss of Bodhi, while Kinsey, Jamal, Scott, Jackie and the rest of the students climb out of hatch. In his dying moments, Scott decides to free Jackie on her own so that they can stare into each other's eyes. Jamal hands over the anti-demon key and Scott uses it on her. They both happily die while caressing each other's cheeks. Locke Key Volume 7, Alpha Issue Number 2, The Finder of Keys. Tyler prepares himself for Bodhi's funeral. He has matured. He now has a stubble, as well as a keychain full of keys. They attend the funeral, and the family weeps over Bodhi's loss. Kinsey checks in on Nina, while Jamal keeps Tyler company outside the room in the hallway. Nina tells Kinsey that she needs her family more than ever. She can't be alone, and she doesn't want to meet relatives or strangers. Kinsey tells her that none of them would mind if she drank again, but Nina now knows that alcohol only pushes the family away, but she needs her now more than ever. They spend some time remembering Bodhi, and this is when Duncan drives the Charger over and signs the pink slip over to Tyler. It's his graduation present, and he lets the teenager go out for a much-needed drive. They hug, and Tyler drives back to Lovecraft and arrives at the key house. The house has burned down, but a curious sparrow seems to take a lot of interest in Tyler. He, however, walks past the house and makes his way to the well house. He unlocks it using the echo key and summons Dodge once again, who this time appears in Luke's body. He threatens to kill Tyler, threatens to end his family, but surprisingly Tyler tackles him and they both fall into the water of the well. They struggle, fight, but ultimately Tyler wins and uses the anti-demon key on Luke. The real Dodge is finally back, and he can't stop apologizing for all the things he did when he had the demon attached to him. Whispering iron begins to leak out of his eyes, and this is when Tyler asks him him about death. Dodge explains it's like smelling music or eating light. There are thousands of musical notes all singing the same tune, but every time he dies with the demon attached to him, the demon never lets him hum that tune. The demon was the most afraid of that tune. He then learns that Bodhi is dead, but he tells Tyler that he should be a ghost. They should have him return to his body. Unfortunately, Tyler reveals that once they were taken to the hospital, both Kinsey and Tyler were sedated for 2 days, and when they came back, Nina had already cremated Bodhi's body. Luke apologizes again, but Tyler forgives him and asks him to focus on death. Luke tells him all that he can before finally passing away in Tyler's arms. Tyler then destroys the Echo by walking out of the well house and makes his way back to the church, where he drives Kinsey to the psychiatric hospital. Visiting hours are over, but Tyler distracts the nurse and Kinsey uses this opportunity to pour all the memories they found of Erin Voss back in her head. Erin is finally herself, and the first thing she says is that Kinsey has her father's eyes. She then kisses her on the cheek and gets ready to live the rest of her life as it was meant to be. Kinsey and Jamal then speak at the funeral of Scott and Jackie. They explain to everyone how their natures complemented each other, and then they hold up devil horns in honour of Scott. They then begin singing Anarchy in the UK to honour their memory. Tyler walks out and meets Jordan's father. Like Jordan had explained to him, he is a total prick. He never knew his daughter and is still forcing his ideals and the perfect life he envisioned for her after her death. Tyler is appalled by the man, so he steals Jordan's bike and rides away. As he rides, we see Jordan's spectral form sitting behind him while hugging him dearly. Tyler is now back at the fountain in the key house, and this is when a sparrow forces him to follow it. Tyler has seen weirder, so he decides to play along, and it leads him to the ghost door. Tyler unlocks it. The sparrow flies through and dies instantly. This is when the sparrow communicates with Bodhi's ghost, and after some convincing, Bodhi enters the sparrow's body while the sparrow goes off to search her own. Once alive as a sparrow, Bodhi leads Tyler to the animal door and he reluctantly unlocks it. When the sparrow passes through, his eyes widen with surprise and he quickly calls his entire family and urges them to come back to the key house this very instant. When they arrive, they find Bodhi sitting on Tyler's shoulders. Nina runs up to him and squishes him in her arms. Bodhi does his best to explain to them that a sparrow gave up her body because it wanted to find its dead family in the spirit realm, and Bodhi used that body to transform back into himself using the animal door. Nobody understands a thing, but they are all happy that Bodhi is alive once again. He then credits Rufus for killing Dodge and calls him a real hero. He then invites Rufus to live with them, and Nina will allow this if Rufus wants to. Rufus agrees, and the family celebrates their new member. This is when Tyler visits the well house again and summons the echo of his father. Rendell Locke appears and admires his son's new beard. They talk about their meeting in the medicine cabinet, and Rendell explains that though the cabinet couldn't fix his ashes, it was able to repair his soul. He then apologizes to his son for all the bad times and every time he was hard on him, but Tyler simply hugs his father dearly and says that he forgives his mistake. After all, if he doesn't, how can he forgive his own mistakes that he has made now that he is 18? He asks his father to stay with them like an echo using the anywhere key, but Rendell Locke explains that life is a dream. Real life happens when this dream ends. Life is the lock, and death is the key to that lock. With arms around each other's shoulders, they walk out of the well house, and with a final proud look at his son, Rendell Locke fades away. Tyler locks the door and leaves, and the moth we saw in the first issue appears again in front of this door. That was all, guys. See you next time.